Issue, okay?
Following the recent launch of the Revival TV series, we thought it would be intriguing to revisit the comics that inspired it all. So, let's dive into award-winning writer Tim Seeley's brainchild, which explores concepts of the afterlife, morality, and mortality itself. The story follows Officer Dana Cypress, a single mother who is determined to do right by her family, only to discover that her sister Martha has been acting a bit odd lately. Meanwhile, their entire town is stuck in the middle of a worldwide phenomenon that has just brought the dead back to life. Oh, and before I begin, please hit those like and subscribe button. Those 2 small clicks from you help us tremendously in bringing you more of these marvellous long reads. And now, let's begin. Revival, Volume 1, You're Among Friends, Issue Number 1, Revelations. We are shown the town of Wau, Wisconsin. It's the 21st of January as Martha Cypress's words for her creative writing class echo in the background. The town is eerily quiet and seemingly abandoned when suddenly, out of nowhere, a Zorse comes running around the corner and starts bleeding from its mouth. It stumbles and then eventually collapses in the snow after leaving a huge trail of blood in its wake. We then catch up with Sheriff Cypress at the southern checkpoint of the town on Highway 51. The roads have been closed, and their conversation hints that mysterious people called Revivors are part of their society. This is when Ibrahim Ramin, his latest liaison from the CDC, shows up. Ibrahim wants to know if the sheriff has recruited someone for RCAT yet, and he tells Ibrahim that he is going to have a recruitment meeting this morning. We see Sheriff Cypress is awfully cold to Ibrahim and calls him Abraham instead. When the latter invites the sheriff to breakfast, Cypress declines and leaves the scene under the guise of an RCAT meeting. This is when we head to the nearby town of Rothschild to catch up with Dana Cypress, Wayne's daughter, who also works as an officer for the sheriff's department. Dana brushes her teeth as the conversation over the radio introduces us to the Revivors. The Revivors are people who came back to life on January the 2nd. This means anyone who died on the 1st was brought back. This has caused chaos across the country, and Christians are pushing the agenda that this is an act of God. A Christian representative currently debates a scientist over the radio who argues that people who have been revived aren't all Christians in the first place. They need to conduct scientific tests and learn as much as possible to determine how the situation unfolded and what this means for humanity. The Christian representative, however, isn't ready to accept defeat yet because this exact event was described in the Bible and it is supposed to occur before the rapture. Dana gets dressed, and through the conversation over the radio, we learn that this is the reason why Wau has been cut off from the rest of the country. The 2 representatives continue arguing, but Dana turns off the radio and calls out to her son, Cooper, who is busy playing outside. Cooper is busy playing with his action figures near the words when he hears a low, disembodied mumbling in the distance. He watches as an ethereal white entity slowly makes its way past the trees, and Cooper can't help but get close to it. The kid, however, isn't careful and makes his presence known to the entity after mistakenly stepping on a twig on the ground. When the entity turns around, he quickly runs away and catches up with Dana and pretends that nothing bad happened while he was out in the woods. We also learn that Dana is divorced. She shares custody with her ex-husband and is being forced to leave Cooper at his place this weekend due to the Reviver situation in Wau. Cooper is quite understanding about staying at his dad's for the weekend, but as they drive away, Cooper notices that the white ethereal entity has now learned his name. When Dinah reaches the Rothschild Police Department, she catches Lester, an old man notorious for frequent speeding tickets, trying to woo the secretary, Bonnie, in an attempt to get out of his latest ticket. She suggests that he should just drive slowly, but Lester doesn't take kindly to these words and goes back to flirting with Bonnie. Dana heads inside and is offered a donut by Brent, and though Dana knows she shouldn't be eating them, she is tempted and eventually succumbs when she spots a raspberry cream flavoured one in the box. This is when her father catches her and summons her to the conference room once she's finished her donut. Once Dana heads there, she is probed by her father about her opinion on the Revivors. After learning that she doesn't believe in the supernatural, Wayne reveals reveals that the curfew on the town isn't about to be lifted anytime soon. Moreover, the CDC wants to verify reviving isn't a disease, which is why the mayor has agreed to form a police force in conjunction with the CDC, which would be reporting to the sheriff and the CDC liaison. The force will keep an eye on the revivers and report to the liaison. And this is where the RKT, aka Revitalized Citizen Arbitration Team, comes in. This is when Sheriff Cypress reveals that the police force is stretched thin while maintaining the curfew, which is why he wants Dana to be the first officer on this new team. It's not the promotion Dana had been expecting, but the sheriff needs someone he can trust. And though Dana and he might have had problems in the past, she is the only one he can trust in this situation. Dana has no choice but to accept the offer, and while she is on her way to attend to her latest case, she talks to Bonnie over the phone, and we learn that she has agreed to go on a date with Lester. This is when Dinah spots her little sister Martha ominously looking into the water on the bridge in front of her, and fearing the worst, she quickly screams for her to get away from the bridge and into her car. Martha gets inside, and we learn that her car broke down, which is why she was busy staring into the water below. She makes the excuse that she was watching ice floating in the river, but as they drive away, we see that there is no ice in the river. Dinah then chides Martha and says that she should have bought a new car when Dad offered to pay for it. She should utilize the privileges that come with being the favorite child, and Martha reveals that her car didn't break down, but instead ran out of gas. Martha is distracted and seems depressed, which is why Dinah allows her to accompany her on the latest case. Her latest case is the death of the Zorse we saw at the beginning. It belonged to the Stanovich family, and they are blaming the death on their Asian neighbour because they happened to catch him stealing their corn a few years ago. Dana shows up, mediates the situation, and we learn that Mrs. Stankowicz's mother is one of the revivers. Dana photographs the dead Zorse, and when she investigates the trail of blood, she finds human teeth in them. When she checks the horse's mouth, she finds human teeth in there too, and this is when she demands to see Mrs. Stankowicz's mother. She takes Dana into the barn, where her mother likes to stay because their cat recently had kittens. But when Dana steps into the barn, she finds it littered with human teeth. Stankowicz's mother is facing away from them, which is why they don't realise that she is actively pulling her teeth out using a pair of pliers. The sight is horrific, and her entire face is drenched in blood. When she is done pulling out her teeth, she puts on her dentures, and this is when Dana realises that something is wrong. She tries to lead Mrs. Stankowicz away and orders her mother to drop the pliers, but this is when her mother calls Dana an abomination and stabs her daughter in the neck. Watching her daughter bleed out momentarily snaps Teresa Stankowicz's mother out of her daze, and this is when her husband Bob and their neighbour rush into the barn. Dana orders them to call an ambulance, and her husband Bob rushes back into the house to do the same. This is when she is attacked by Terry's mother, Arlene. The neighbour steps in to save Dana, but Arlene breaks his arm and continues attacking Dana. We then see Martha rush into the barn at this moment. She grabs a scythe and then uses the blunt end to get the old woman off of her sister, but Arlene, in retaliation, grabs the knife and stabs Martha through the chest. She then continues to attack Dana, and through her rambling, we learn that she sees herself as an abomination. Her teeth keep growing back ever since she was revived, which is why she keeps pulling them out so that she can wear her dentures. She is about to kill Dana, but this is when she is scalped by Martha using the scythe, and it is revealed that Martha is a reviver herself. When Dana realizes this, her sister begs her to keep this a secret. She doesn't want their father to learn about this revival. Volume 1, You're Among Friends. Issue number 2, Take a Hint. We start this issue with Ibrahim and the town coroner as they begin to perform their autopsy on Arlene Dittman. The coroner is quite excited about the autopsy because this is the first victim that they get to study and learn about. But just as they are about to begin, Arlene wakes up and begins screaming the word daisies. We then see Dana reading the newspaper as Cooper asks her if all of them will be revived, considering all that is happening. Dana explains to her son that death is a part of life, and it is needed to hold everyone accountable for their actions. Life is no video game, and there are no second chances. We then see Dana crying after she had headed home with Martha from the barn. She was weeping in her car because not only did she fail to protect her sister today, she failed to protect her when she died on the 1st of January. What's even weirder is the fact that Martha, aka M, doesn't even remember how she died, but she trusts that her sister will eventually find out who murdered her. Back in the present, Cooper brings her mother some apple juice because she looks sad, and when he looks at an old photograph of his Aunt Em, we learn that Martha has been depressed ever since Cooper was born. This is when Wayne calls their residence, and after catching up with Cooper calmly, he talks to Dana and screams at her for bringing her sister Em to a crime scene. What's worse is that she forgot to carry her firearm, which is why he is now removing her from the RCAT. If it were up to him, he would have fired her, but because they are short on officers, she gets to stay on the force. Em has listened to this entire conversation, and when she goes back to her room, we see that she has unhealed scars on her chest and head that she hides from everyone. Her dad then shows up and requests that she stay the night, and this is when she confesses that he was too hard on Dana. She was the one who requested to tag along. Their conversation reveals that Dana got pregnant in high school, which is why he has been hard on her ever since. It's the reason Dana joined the force to get his approval. However, this is when Wayne lashes out at Em and reveals that he is proud of Dana. It's the reason why he promoted her to RCAT, but after what happened yesterday, he can't risk losing her or Em. We are then introduced to Blaine Abel, the local demonologist, who has just shown up for an exorcism of a teenage girl. We then head to the Pulp House pub, where Ibrahim meets up with Dana, who is dressed up for the night to distract herself. They both don't know who they are, and they both plan to keep it that way. Back at Wayne's house, we see Em sneak out of the house after fetching an old hoodie from Dana's room. Meanwhile, at Lester's home, we see him exercising when his dog is suddenly distracted by someone's wailing from the woods. Lester goes to check in on the commotion, and although we are never shown the perpetrator, we are led to believe that it is someone carrying a baby. However, Lester quickly realizes that there is something very wrong with this situation, considering the wailing and how the person looks, so he quickly gets his dog inside the house and locks the door. We then see that Em has sneaked to the Chomp Champ restaurant, where she antagonizes a woman who hates the Revivors because they get to come back to life while her mother is condemned to die because of her health. The woman tries to brush off Em's comments because she's a kid, but when Em continues to antagonize her, the woman punches her in the face and breaks her nose. The woman continues to kick her in the face until she is eventually restrained by the bartender. When the patrons check up on Em, we see that she is smiling, and somehow getting beaten up was the point of this exercise all along. Back at the Pulp House pub, we see Dana and Ibrahim hooking up in her car, still unaware of who they are, and they plan to keep it that way. However, this is when Dana is contacted by the owner of the restaurant and is informed of the entire situation with Em. He is Dana's high school friend and thought it'd be better to contact Dana before contacting the police. This is when Ibrahim learns who she is and introduces himself as the CDC liaison. However, he is quickly informed that Dana is no longer on RCAT, which means that they will no longer be working together. We then see Blaine Abel failing to exorcise the demon out of the teenage girl, and this is when he sends the parents out and confronts the girl privately. He knows she has been faking the possession for attention because her Latin is fake and broken. He knows she is doing this because after the revival day, she feels more devoid of attention and orders her to stop faking it and pretend that he exorcised the demon out of her. If she ever reveals the truth to anyone, he will find her and kill her. The girl gives up the act, and Blaine drives away on his snowmobile, happy that he has another solved case under his belt. Em, meanwhile, gets in the back seat of Dana's truck while Dana reprimands her from the front seat. However, despite how she looks, Em is smiling, and when Dana notices this, it sends chills down her spine. When Dana gets home, she stares at her and Em's childhood photo and calls up her father. She wants to be a part of the RCAT again, and she will do anything it takes to make that possible. Revival, Volume 1, You're Among Friends, Issue number 3, Ghost. It's now Tuesday, January 24th. Em is back in her dorm, and Dana is here to investigate her murder. However, she isn't getting anywhere. Em doesn't remember anything, nor does she want to talk about it either. This is when Dana brings up the fight at the restaurant and points out that Em got herself beaten up to prove something to herself or put on a show for someone. This is when Em avoids the confrontation and rushes out for her classes, and we see Dana get a call from her father. He wants to talk to her in person later today. We then see Mei Tao, a reporter from the Wau Daily daily ledger, meet up with Mrs. Wang. Mrs. Wang has the story of a lifetime that she hopes can set her up for the rest of her life. But May doesn't seem to believe her. After all, rarely has the next best scoop of the century come from an old woman. But when Mrs. Wang reveals that she works for a rich family that might have ties to the media, Tao is intrigued. However, this is when she spots Blaine in the restaurant, who coincidentally also gets a call from someone who hires him for a celebrity case. Tao knows something is wrong, so she takes Mrs. Wang's number and promises to visit her in the evening, while Blaine, for some reason, offers to change Mrs. Wang's flat tire for free. Back at the police department at noon, we see Sheriff Wayne introduce Dana to Ibrahim and apologize to her because he acted as a father when he learned about the incident at the Stanovich farm, and not as a sheriff. As a sheriff, he now realizes that she was just doing her duty and was going by the book, as was expected of her. Ibrahim then introduces himself and briefs them on the Arlene Dittman case. Though it may seem to be a disaster from their standpoint, for the CDC, the RCAT has proved to be a massive success. They have learned a lot from the autopsy and continue to learn a lot more, and through their conversation, we learn that there are a total of 23 official revivers in the town. Sheriff Wayne quickly shuts Ibrahim down because he knows what this means. RCAT being a success means more work, and it means that the FBI thinks that Wau is a small enough town that they can simply cover up in case things go wrong. After briefly staring at the case files in front of him, Wayne hands the latest file to Dana and orders her to get on the case. When Ibrahim and Dana get in the car, Ibrahim jokes that he is a police officer now, but this is when Dana's insecurities get the best of her and she ends up lashing out at him. She screams that she isn't going to sleep with him and that she doesn't use that sort of thing to climb the ladder to success. Dana has assumed a lot, which becomes clear when a flustered Ibrahim tries to tell her that they should start again. Dana, however, shuts him down and orders him to focus on the case because she knows he is already daydreaming that the two of them meeting at the pub out of the blue a few days ago seems like a cosmic coincidence to him. Back at M's university, we see that the man who saw her get beaten up by the woman in the restaurant is actually her professor, and when he confronts M about what happened that night, it's implied that she did it for him. The show was put on for the professor because he was there with his wife, and M was testing his boundaries. It is heavily implied that the professor cheated on his wife with M, who hasn't been taking kindly to being treated like a side piece. We see Bob and his family heading for Teresa's funeral at the Stanovich farm, but when he goes back into the barn to feed the kittens, he comes across the same pale white ethereal entity that Cooper encountered in the first issue. Bob, however, is clearly struggling to hold himself together because upon seeing the entity, he simply breaks down and thinks that he is hallucinating. At the same time, at around 3:30 p.m, a father of a newborn is introducing his son to his new sister at the hospital when, to their horror, they see Arlene Dittman ogling the babies while remembering her daughter Teresa. As she picks one up, a nurse rushes into the room, takes the baby from her, and thankfully, Arlene simply walks away while still mumbling her daughter's name. This is when we see how Arlene escaped the morgue. She had been strapped down by the coroner and the CDC, but after a day's struggle, she managed to break through her straps, beat down the officer looking over her, and make her escape. The officer has a concussion, but the coroner doesn't care about it. One of the revivers has escaped, and he is sounding the alarm while calling in all his resources. It is his number one priority right now. We then see Dittman walking aimlessly through the snow, while on the other side of town, Dana tells Ibrahim about the various neighborhoods in the area. Things between them have clearly calmed down, and through Dana's words, we learn that Wau has a significant concentration of Hmong families. Upon reaching the posh part of the town, they enter a huge house and meet up with Justin Hine. We learn that Justin's father is one of the revivers. He was in a vegetative state before Revival Day, but after the phenomenon, Justin believes that some part of him has come back to life. We then learn that Dana is here because his stepsister, Jamie, has a stalker who has increasingly become more and more threatening. Jamie is a popular news reporter. She is used to stalkers, but this latest one has become increasingly bold, and his latest threat has been numerous photos of Jamie being mailed to her and her loved ones, including Justin. Every photo has the word Judas scribbled on it. We then learn that Jamie and Justin have been trying to help the community in their own way since the revival day. Justin has been offering low-cost therapy to the revivers, and Jamie has been doing her best to report the truth. We then see Anders Hine shedding a few tears as he watches the TV and learn that there may be more to his story that is currently being told. We then head to Teresa's funeral, and while the women of the town gossip and tell lies, Bob's neighbour Choi walks up to him and offers him help with anything that he might ever need in the future. Despite their initial conflict involving racist remarks against Choi, Bob turns around, hugs him, and thanks him for his help. Meanwhile, the funeral home technician Randy is getting the crematorium ready for Teresa's body. However, this is when Arlene Dittman, her mother, shows up at the funeral, dressed in nothing but a single sheet that she likely managed to steal from the morgue. She is delirious, but when she sees the scar around her daughter's neck, she remembers that she was the one who killed her. Her delirium turns into regret and slowly transforms into anger. Her pupils vanish, and she begins to growl like an animal as Bob quickly ushers everyone out of the funeral home. Randy is busy preparing the cremation chamber, but this is when Arlene barges in and rips it open. However, before she does so, she orders Randy to run, and this act of mercy seems to imply that she might have regretted her actions, and this is a way of redeeming herself by making sure that she stays dead. 3 hours later, at 6 o'clock, we are introduced to Dana's ex as she picks up Cooper. This is Derek Hinch, and despite his best efforts, he is still unemployed. This is when Dana gets a call about what happened at the funeral home, and much to her dismay, she has to leave Cooper with Derek as she attends the scene. Thankfully, despite the initial implication, Derek and Cooper seem to have a healthy relationship, and neither of them seems to mind that Dana occasionally has to choose her job over them. 20 minutes later, we see Mei Tao, the reporter, at Mrs. Vang's house, which ominously is located in the Pine Grove Cemetery. She is on call with her editor, and it is implied that she is doing this as a favour to her mother, because if the story turns out to be a dud, which it likely might, she will simply blame her editor when it doesn't get published. This is when she spots a leashed dachshund without an owner and assumes that it might be Mrs. Vang's pet because it comes barking at her when she approaches the home. Thinking that he ran away from his old owner, May chases the dog and eventually catches him, only to then spot blood on the stairs leading into Mrs. Vang's basement. Carefully, she tries to walk down the stairs, but she trips on the dachshund's leash and they both go tumbling down into the basement. The dog whines, but May is too distracted by what she sees. There's an occult circle in the basement, a shrine for a ritual, and lying near it is Mrs. Vang's body. She has been stabbed in the back with a rake, and with her dying breath, all Mrs. Vang can say is the word ghost. This is when May turns around as a white light ominously approaches her. Revival, Volume 1, You're Among Friends, Issue Number 4, Demons. Mei Tao staggers as she gets to her feet while Mrs. Vang's dachshund barks at her endlessly. She finds a mysterious flip phone lying near the occult circle, and when she opens it, she gets the shock of her life. We then see Martha having a nightmare in which one of the ethereal white entities tries to communicate with her and eventually says her name out loud. She wakes frantically and realizes that she is bleeding from the wound on her head. It is now the 24th of January, and M wakes up around 7 p.m. Half an hour later, we see Jamie covering the fire at the funeral home. Her cameraman, who is also her husband, fears for her safety after the recent threats, but she isn't about to back down now. Inside the funeral home, Randy, Ibrahim and Dana find Arlene's corpse simply sitting in the middle of the room. It's like she simply sat there until she burned to a crisp, and when Randy stabs it with a knife, he realizes that her body is completely dry. This shouldn't be the case. The fire wouldn't have been hot enough to burn her entirely. It's as if she burned from the inside out. After this conclusion, Ibrahim apologizes to Dana for keeping Arlene's existence a secret after the incident at the barn. He then calls in a team to collect her remains, and this is when we see Dana remembering everything that happened at the barn, only this time, she remembers M threatening to kill her if she told their dad that she was a reviver. When they head outside, Ibrahim is questioned by the reporters, and he naively gives them the statement that they don't know anything for now and that the CDC is doing its best to expedite the process. The questions make it clear that the public knows about Arlene coming back from death once again, and that they suspect that this was a suicide. Dinah begins to drag Ibrahim away, but this is when Jamie approaches her and questions if all revivers survivors are to be considered dangerous. Dana is stunned by Jamie's presence, because after the death threats, she shouldn't be here. But this is when one of the religious zealots screams and throws shit on Jamie's face. He believes that the rich are hoarding immortality for themselves, while the poor will be destined for eternal torment. Jamie's husband, Rick Hettinger, lunges at the perpetrator, and this is when we switch to the police station. It's 8:40 p.m. now, and Bonnie is telling May that she will likely be called in for questioning by Dana tomorrow. She is handed her belongings, including the mysterious flip phone, and we learn that Mrs. Vang has somehow managed to survive the assault. However, as May is leaving, she bumps into M, who is here to see Dinah, and as they fall to the ground, their flip phones get exchanged. May receives a call from her editor, and she frantically arranges a meeting for tonight, which is why she fails to realise that she has the wrong phone. M nonchalantly flips the phone open, only to be greeted by a picture of one of the pale white entities. Still shocked, she hands May her phone back, and then leaves the police station instead of waiting for her sister. Ibrahim and Dana leave the funeral home, and in the car, they discuss whether all revivers are dangerous or not. Ibrahim doesn't believe in generalization. After all, that's what has marginalized his community in the eyes of the Western world in the first place. But Dana struggles to maintain the moral high ground after the recent flashback where M threatened her. We then see May Tao get a call from an anonymous client who wants her to break their story but keep it discreet because they are a celebrity. She notes things down and then gets off the bus. She is outside the Wosal Daily Ledger's office, but this is when Boggs, her editor, texts her that he is running a little late and should be there in 15 minutes. However, this is when a mysterious man ambushes her, and though she tries to pepper spray him, it has no effect because he's wearing a helmet. We know this is Blaine, and he knocks May out and abducts her while claiming that he is just doing his job like her. We then see Jamie reach her home, greet her father, and then get dressed in a scanty outfit. Her words reveal that Justin and she shared an intimate relationship. However, when she tries to get into bed with him, she discovers that it is covered in Justin's blood, whose gutted body lies there motionless. Jamie gets the shock of her life, and we see that Justin isn't dead yet. He is barely alive as he manages to groan. Her father continues to watch the TV, this time, however, without shedding a tear. May wakes up, and her conversation with Blaine reveals that he was the one who stabbed Mrs. Vang with the rake. The phone also belongs to him, and he was the one who took the picture of the white entity. Blaine believes that the white entity is a demon. He plans to capture one, and this is when he pulls out a totem from his jacket. He threatens to kill May unless she tells him who else knows about the photo. As Blaine continues to monologue about the demon, we see M slowly stalking his place. But before she can reach it, one of the white ethereal entities manages to ambush her. Revival Volume 1, You're Among Friends. Issue number 5, The Layers of the Onion. Blaine is busy mocking May and telling her how isolated they are when suddenly M's scream serves as a sharp contrast to his claims. The white ethereal entity is attacking M, and it's currently entering her body through her mouth. Blaine decides to go check in on the commotion while the white entity's memories are shown to M. She sees Joe Myers and his first love, Mimi, the two of whom dated and fancied each other. Before Joe was sent to war, he proposed to Mimi. He gave her a ring, which was returned to him by Mimi as a sign of trust when he was deployed. She wanted him to hang on to it and to use it as an inspiration to ensure that he returns once the war is over. Joe did so, but when he returned, he learned that Mimi had moved on, thinking that he must have died. Once Joe Myers has shown these memories to M, his spirit leaves her body, and this is when Blaine attacks her. Blaine tries to hit her with a wrench while M still recovers from the memories of the ring. Blaine is incoherent and on the verge of insanity. He thinks that the spirit was the demon that he was destined to kill, and now that he has seen it entering M, it means that Satan himself has possessed M. This is the reason why he is trying to kill her, because through his words, we learn that Blaine believes Satan is responsible for hurting him through some traumatic event in the past. This is when M realizes that she is being attacked by a crazy man and spots a sharp stick nearby that she can use as a weapon. At the same time, around 10 p.m, we see Ibrahim get contacted by his ex, Army, who works at the CDC office back in Atlanta, Georgia. She informs him that the CDC is considering establishing an internment camp in response to what happened with Arlene Dittman, although her words are laced with regret, and it seems she wants to give their relationship another chance. After conveying the relevant information, when she tries to approach Ibrahim, he coldly thanks her for the help and cuts the call. May, meanwhile, continues to struggle while being tied to Blaine's tow truck, and this is when Joe Myers' ghost enters enters the garage and, upon realizing that the ring is no longer there, it touches May's face while mumbling that he needs his ring. The touch, in turn, leaves a burn mark. However, before it can do more, M shows up with the ring and leads it away. As she does, she tries to make Joe's ghost realize that he doesn't need to hang on to the ring anymore. He needs to let go of the past. The ring doesn't make him who he is. He is his own person, while the ring is just another piece of metal. The ring is imprisoning him, but when she says this, the spirit attacks her. M trips, and the ring ends up falling in the nearby river. The spirit falls in the water as well, and though M tries to save Joe, it simply vanishes into the water. M goes back into the garage and begins to untie May, and we see that she stabbed Blaine in the leg with the sharp piece of wood she found earlier. He is currently limping towards his stash of weapons while claiming that he won't be defeated by Satan again, who he thinks currently possesses M. Through his incoherent ramblings, we learn that Blaine clearly suffered a traumatic event in the past that he managed to survive, which he decided to blame on Satan, which is why he is so driven to hunt down demons and Satan in his later years. He fetches a crossbow from his stash and heads towards the girls while they try to escape using one of his snowmobiles. M is the only one who knows how to drive one. However, when she gets stabbed through her hand by one of Blaine's arrows, May is forced to take the charge. They manage to escape as Blaine realizes that M took Joe's ring, and he won't be able to catch his spirit anymore. May can't drive well, which is why they end up going airborne with the snowmobile, but thankfully, this works out for them, because M manages to pull out the arrow from her hand because it had already begun to heal. This is when Blaine rams into them on another snowmobile and continues to address M as Satan instead of who she is, and he is clearly off the rails. When the girls realize this, M decides to take matters into her own hands and leaps onto Blaine's snowmobile. Blaine tries to fight her, but M manages to drive them onto the road, and they end up getting hit by an oncoming truck. M's mangled and burnt up body from the explosion is flung into the air, and May quickly rushes to check in on her. After all, they used to be schoolmates. But when she reaches M, she finds her laughing maniacally despite having most of the bones in her body in pieces. That night at 11 p.m, we see Lester Majek, the old man notorious for earning speeding tickets daily, visit Dal and Pat's pub. He is mocked by his former friends, and through their conversation, we learn that Lester is a former celebrity who always eats healthy and tries to keep his body in shape. He orders a tomato juice instead of liquor and tells the men in the bar that he is trying to get away from his house. We then get a glimpse of his house and see the spirit of a baby wailing outside it. May drives M away from the scene of the crime before the emergency responders spot them, and M reveals that she tried to save May's phone, but it broke into pieces during the accident. May tries to question M about being a reviver, but M is in no mood to discuss it, especially with a reporter. May tries to press her, but M tells her that she is only adding fuel to the fire, causing further hysteria if she continues reporting on the revivers like she has been. M gets into her truck, clearly healing from the wounds very rapidly, and offers May a ride back into town. This is when we see Jamie leaving the police station after providing her statement, but when she reaches her car, she finds another note from her stalker, and in this one, he confesses to Justin's murder. It's 1 a.m. now, and we see that Dana and Cooper have been watching Sherlock Holmes. Cooper wakes up on the couch and decides to go to bed, and it is then that we see Dana has been studying M's call records. She has discovered that M has an affair with her professor, Aaron Weimer, because she has multiple calls from him on the day of the murder. Aaron, meanwhile, after making love to his wife Nithya, decides to do some writing. However, he finds a poem M mailed to him, which only exacerbates his guilt. Revival Volume 2, Live Like You Mean It, Issue Number 6, Consequences. This issue reveals how the story of the revivers was leaked to the public. Maytal leaked it, and it is a video of a kid who was dead coming back to life as she was being incinerated. We see Randy get the shock of his life when the little girl leapt out of the incinerator, quickly healed, and then, minutes later, demanded to see her mother. Maytal, meanwhile, has been traumatized by the attack by Blaine, and is avoiding her work every chance she gets. Her editor demands the photo of the spirit that she was promised, but Tao tells her that her phone broke and she couldn't get one. Her editor is furious and orders her to take a few days off. because she failed to back up her proof. But this is when she sees May deleting the backup of the photo she made from her new phone. The next day, early in the morning, we see a little girl leading her grandpa through the woods so that they can cross the border and enter Wau. She believes that the miracle of the town can save her grandpa, but unfortunately, he ends up falling into the frozen river once the ice gives way. The scene is tragic, but thankfully, officers maintaining the border show up and rescue him. They lead him back to the border, where we see thousands of citizens trying to enter the country in order to experience the miracle of reviving for themselves. They are religious zealots, and Sheriff Wayne knows that though they can take care of the stragglers, they won't be able to contain these people if they get organized. This is when the mayor of Wisconsin, Clyde Birch, shows up on the scene. Clyde has been using the revival day for his own political agenda, and Sheriff Wayne knows that he is the catalyst that will force the people at the border to organize. An hour later, we see Cooper leaving his toys in the woods for the spirits. He feels for them because he too feels alone, and he wants the toys to keep them company. We learn that though he puts on a brave face while Dana is gone, he still misses her and hopes that he can make her proud. Once Cooper leaves, the spirit that approaches the toys also shares his dream of making their dad proud. At 10 a.m., Dana reaches the Hine residence and witnesses the scene of the crime and finds a gutted Justin in his bed. Jimmy Heckendorf is assigned this case, but despite that, Dana decides to snoop around because she knows something was wrong with Jamie's statement to the police. After all, she is from the Arcat, and Justin's father, Anders Hine, is a reviver, which gives her every right to carry out her investigation. Dana heads out of the house and has an officer rummage through the trash. And before you know it, they find Jamie's lingerie covered in blood, and her hunch is proved to be true. Jimmy Heckendorf tries to intervene, but Dana handles the situation by telling him about Arcat, hands him the new evidence, and then leaves the scene. As she leaves, she calls Ibrahim and learns about the internment camp that the CDC plans to build in the near future. We also see that Ibrahim couldn't accompany Dana to the crime scene because he is supposed to be performing the final autopsy on Arlene Dittman right now. We then see Dana phone M and set up a meeting while M sews back Dana's old hoodie that she has been wearing for days. M agrees to meet up with Dana tomorrow night, and we see that she has an obsession with the hoodie for some reason. It has angel wings on its back and a skull on the hood. M finds solace in the fact that the hoodie is now covered in scars, just like her, after the recent accident. Nurse Ann Moss, who was responsible for taking care of Anders Hine when Justin was alive, is now temporarily housing him at her home. Though she pretends to be caring whenever people are around, she is, in fact, quite abusive to Anders while in private. This is when Dana arrives and questions Anne about the Hines and if she ever spotted something weird between Justin and Jamie. Anne's words lead Dana to believe that she might have been aware of their relationship. Anne then leads Dana to Anders, but that is when the bell rings and she leaves to answer the door. Dana is weirded out by Anders, who seems to be in a vegetative state, and we see that Jamie's husband, Rick, is the one at the door. He is demanding a meeting with Anders, and Anne tries to shoo him away because Dana is present on the scene. Rick, however, doesn't plan on backing down. He pulls out his gun and grabs Anne's throat, who quickly frees herself and then tackles him to the ground. Anne is a veteran of Jeet Kune Do and manages to quickly disarm Rick, but he manages to grab his gun again and clock her in the head, which knocks her out. However, Dana has heard the commotion and quickly orders Rick to drop his gun while holding him at gunpoint, and this is when Rick fires at her and she is forced to run for cover. Rick keeps screaming at Anders and blames him for getting the cops involved. He blames him for what happened to Justin, and when Dana doesn't understand what he is trying to do, Rick reveals that Anders is a depraved man who pretends to be in a vegetative state since the revival day. He, in fact, is very much in control of all his extremities. Dana doesn't believe him, but when she stares at Anders, he looks back at her and she is shocked to her core. However, this causes enough destruction to allow Rick to knock her out using his gun. On the other side of town, we see May visiting Mrs. Vang in the hospital. She asks Mrs. Vang about the ring, who reveals that when she arrived in America, life was tough and the people she worked for had plenty, so she would steal a few small things that no one would notice were missing. That's how she got the ring. She stole it when Joe died of old age, but that is when his spirit started haunting her after revival day, and that's how she knew it was Joe's spirit. As May leaves the hospital, she sees Blaine in one of the rooms. His entire body is covered in plaster, but May doesn't feel sorry for him, not one bit. She calls him a piece of shit and leaves, but this is when we see that Blaine might have heard her because he moves his fingers. Revival Volume 2, Live Like You Mean It, Issue number 7, Supply and Demand. We start the comic at Highway 51's southern checkpoint, where it's seemingly getting more and more difficult to maintain order with each passing second. Trucks carrying supplies are let in without a hitch, but the driver of the truck carrying supplies for the Muller farm and dairy seems awfully twitchy. At Aggie's coffee shop in Schofield, we see May get assigned the next puff piece by her newspaper because of her failure to provide proof for her last story. Despite this, she hasn't stopped looking into local celebrities after the anonymous call, and the latest suspect on her list is Lester Majek, especially after his latest interview on the local news, where he outlines his routine for old men to maintain their physique. It is around 6:30 p.m. right now, and Dana finally wakes up in Anne's house. Anne does her best to help her, but when Dinah checks on Anders, she realizes that he has escaped and that Rick has been killed. Anne thinks that a mysterious perpetrator took Anders and killed Rick, but this is when Dinah reveals to her that Anders wasn't really paralyzed. He was simply pretending to be in that state to exact revenge on his son and stepdaughter because they killed him, and Anne is horrified by this revelation because she would regularly change her clothes in front of Anders. Dana knows he is going after Jamie, and as she leaves Anne's house armed with her pistol, we see Lester Majek leaving the police station after hitting on Bonnie yet again. Bonnie tells Brent about her escapades with Lester, and this is when he gets a call from Dana asking him to give her a ride. At the southern checkpoint, meanwhile, Clyde Birch has begun sinking his teeth into the public. He currently stands on top of a truck and delivers a religious speech that clearly intends to spark violence. He claims that the CDC and the FBI are keeping the Christians away from the rapture so that the rich can exploit it, and this only adds fuel to the already burning fire among the public that has been waiting for days at the border. Wayne Cypress realizes what Clyde is trying to do and orders his men to shut it down before they have a full-blown riot on their hands. One of his men, who believes in Clyde's words, tries to protest, but Wayne makes it clear that if a riot breaks out, it won't matter whether he is a follower of Clyde or not. They approach Clyde and take down the first protester who tries to physically assault them, but Clyde's cameraman records all of this, clearly planning to use this arrest for their own agenda. At Jamie's home, we see her reading the last email from Justin in which he confesses his forbidden love for her. The email reveals that their affair has been going on for decades, and this is when she is ambushed by her stepfather, Anders. Anders begins to scour through her emails with his blood-covered hand as he reveals to Jamie that he has killed her husband. He then discovers the email exchange between Jamie and Justin, where they meticulously planned Anders' murder in order to inherit his properties and gain his life insurance. He quotes the email to her like a maniac and then introspects on how he adopted her. Anders did his best to love Jamie like his own blood after marrying for the second time, but all Jamie did was stand by and watch Justin slowly poison him until he was paralyzed and eventually in the clutches of death. Anders lashes out, grabs Jamie's throat and blames her for trapping him in his own body, but this is when Jamie reveals that he would have never accepted her and Justin's relationship, and moreover, Justin was broke and they needed the money. She calls him daddy, and the word hits Anders like a bag full of bricks. He begins to cry, but instead of tears, he sheds black liquid which resembles rotten blood. This is when Anders lets his stepdaughter go and tells her about his favourite movie, Gone with the Wind. He would always cry after the scene of Melanie's death after she had given birth, and when he watched that scene after the revival day, he finally realised what made him cry. This revelation is cryptic because, despite this emotional moment, Anders ends up squeezing Jamie's throat once he is done recounting his memories. This is when we see Derek trying his tattoo skills on Nikki's body. He isn't good, and Nikki can tell that, but this is when a scream from his shed, which he has rented to the Czech brothers, distracts them. This is when Adam Czech knocks on Derek's door and tells him that the scream was from his brother, Andrew's new table saw, and Derek decides to believe him because their rent is what he lives off of. But once Adam leaves and returns to the shed, we see that the Czech brothers are busy mutilating and dismembering humans for some reason. Dana and Brent, meanwhile, reach Jamie's house, and though they've called in for backup after the commotion at the southern checkpoint, they both know that they will have to do this on their own. Dana tries to knock on the front door, but when there is no response, she decides to climb into the house through the back window. Brent is in awe of her, but as soon as Dana gets into the attic, she is ambushed by Anders, who quickly takes her down and snatches her gun away. Dana doesn't trust him, and when he tries to play with her, Dana demands to know what he did with Jamie. Dana suspects that Anders likely murdered Jamie, but this is when Anders begins to cry and tells her that even though he wanted to, he didn't murder his stepdaughter. It was something she said that stopped him dead in his tracks. This is when we see Brent with Jamie, who is inconsolable in the kitchen downstairs and in the attic. Meanwhile, Anders reveals that it was Jamie questioning how he planned to lead his new, revived life that made him question everything. Dana understands his dilemma, and though killing Rick might have been self-defense, Justin's murder wasn't, which is why Dana is going to have to arrest him. However, the word arrest changes Anders' demeanor, and he points the gun at her and says that once again, he plans on enjoying the life of a free man, no matter what he might have done in the past. He tries to pull the trigger, but Brent manages to draw and shoot his gun before Anders. He manages to shoot Anders in the head, which causes him to fall out of the attic. Dana is surprised that Brent managed to save her, and we see that their call for backup worked because the other officers have now arrived on the scene. This is when we see two officers driving two school buses towards the southern checkpoint to ferry the recently arrested protesters to the school gymnasium. However, visibility is low, and while distracted by the radio, they end up crashing into the traffic already piled up outside the checkpoint. However, this also means that the truck from the Muller farm and dairy is destroyed, and everyone watches in horror as its contents spill out. However, before the contents are revealed to us, we switch to Em and catch up with her. She is busy grocery shopping, and she quickly realizes that the woman behind the counter is Mrs. Gorski, and she is a reviver as well. Em tries to act normal, but when she leaves, Mrs. Gorski tells her that she knows that Em is a reviver, and their kind convenes in St. Mark's each night, and that Em should come see them today. Em leaves with a queasy feeling in her stomach, and this is when we see that though Anders was shot in the head, he still managed to get up and walk away after falling out of the attic. We then see Sheriff Wayne trying to assess the situation at the southern checkpoint, but most of his officers, including the twitchy driver, are horrified by what has spilled out of the Muller farm and dairy truck. Hundreds of dismembered human body parts and heads line the road in the wake of the crash. Revival Volume 2, Live Like You Mean It, Issue number 8, Yearning for a Second Chance. We start this issue at Lester's home and see that he still receives fan mail. This time, a young woman has sent him a photo of herself in a bikini, thanking him for all the fitness tips that he published in his book. Lester, however, being the creep that he is, stashes away the photo in his personal collection. This is when we see his dog bark loudly, and simultaneously, his doorbell rings. It's May Tao, but she is pretending to be Katie, a damsel in distress who got stuck outside Lester's house. Lester blames the weather, and when he checks on her car outside, he realizes that it can't be rescued. He invites May inside, still thinking that she's Katie, and May readily accepts his offer while secretly recording their conversation. This is when we see Dana waiting for Aaron Weimer outside the university as she hears the events of the southern checkpoint over the radio. When Aaron gets out of the university, she confronts the disgusting professor, only to be greeted by a man who knows his way around the law too well. He threatens to contact his lawyer if she confronts him about his and Em's relationship without evidence, and despite knowing better, Dana ends up knocking the books out of his hands out of frustration. Aaron the creep rejoices in his victory as Dana walks away, and as he picks up his belongings, we see that he has authored a book named Banks of the Broken Creek. We then see the Mayor of Wau, Ken Dillish, holding a meeting with Sheriff Wayne, CDC's liaison Ibrahim, and other representatives of the state. He learns about the Anders Hine incident as well as the truck full of body parts that was found on the southern checkpoint. It is revealed to him that body parts of the recently deceased and the unfortunate are being smuggled out of the city because there is a booming black market for them, considering the events of Revival Day. Though the parts don't belong to any of the catalogued revivers, it matters little to the buyers as long as they come from the town. He then confronts the superior from the CDC and threatens to go public if the organisation tries to set up an internment camp. But when he threatens the CDC and FBI, Sheriff Cypress reveals that they could use all the help they can get. After what happened at the southern checkpoint, he fears the worst. He doesn't have enough officers to stop a riot, and right-wingers like Clyde Birch are itching to get the mob riled up. The FBI and CDC liaisons take their leave after this tirade, and though Wayne tries to leave as well, Ken stops him for a private conversation. We then see a photograph on Ken's desk that reveals to us that he and Wayne served in the force together when they were young, and this is the reason why he can call in a favour. Ken wants Wayne to keep the Anders Hine murders a secret and call off the investigation. Wayne tries to protest because he knows Anders did commit the murders, but Ken tells him that doing so will only add fuel to the fire, and the entire world will start believing that every reviver is violent. He wants Wayne to let it go, just like another mysterious crime they supposedly covered up when they served together. The mention of this cover-up causes Sheriff Wayne to comply with Ken's demands. We then see a mysterious blonde man walk into the Rec Room bar in downtown, and from the reaction of everyone present, it's clear that he's a new face for them. No one thinks anything of it, and Brent decides to ask the new man out on a date. Katie, aka May, meanwhile, continues to coerce Lester into revealing that he is a former small-time celebrity who lost his way among women and drugs when he went to Hollywood. His dog Chuck loves May, but when he begins to become agitated by the wailing outside Lester's house, which is about to begin like each night, he coerces Katie into dancing with him at full volume. The spirit of the baby continues to wail outside his house while music blares from his windows. We then see Em visit St. Mark's Church at night, and she learns that Mrs. Gorski is a religious fanatic who believes herself to be reborn in the image of Christ because she came back from the dead just like she did. She burns herself while putting out the candles, claiming that the revivers are destined to suffer for the good of humanity in order to help them. This is when Sheriff Wayne imagines hitting a woman named Patty on a motorcycle, but in reality, there is no one there, and he just had a flashback. May, meanwhile, dances with Lester, but once they are done, Lester reveals that he knows who she is. He knows that the car is a rental, and he could tell that from the multiple tracks in the snow. May confesses that she is here because he had hired Blaine, who in turn tried to kill her. And under the ruse of revealing why he hired Blaine, Lester leads May into his garage. He shows her a trashed snowmobile and tells her he hired Blaine to fix it, and May seemingly believes him and decides to spend the night in her car. However, as she leaves, Lester's face tells us that there is much more to this story than he is revealing to us. We then catch up with Mayor Ken, who has crashed his car outside his home. He rushes inside, only to find that his wife Diane is missing. He checks the bathroom and finds that she has overdosed on pills again. He frantically shakes her body while calling out to her, and minutes later, Diane pukes and begins to weep rotten blood from her eyes. She is one of the revivers as well, and her words reveal that this is not the first time she has overdosed after coming back to life for the first time. Revival, Volume 2, Live Like You Mean It, Issue number 9, The Fear of the Future. Sheriff Cypress finds Ibrahim on his knees when he enters the conference room and assumes that he is praying, while in fact, Ibrahim was just fetching a sugar cube that he dropped. This tells us how Wayne stereotypes Ibrahim, but the tension between the two is soon broken when Dana and Brent enter the room. Brent is the new member of the RCAT, and though he would like to hire more officers, they are stretched thin for manpower due to the quarantine. He then assigns Dana and Brent to Mrs. Stevens from the IRS, who wants to investigate the revivers regarding their taxes, and this is when Dana realizes that the department is giving up on the hunt for Anders Hine. She protests, and Wayne dismisses her by saying that they will nab him as soon as he tries to skip town. Once the meeting is adjourned, Dana thanks Ibrahim for backing her up in front of her dad, and the thought of his daughter dating a Muslim like Ibrahim sends shivers down Sheriff Cypress's spine. The Czech brothers, Adam and Andrew, are woken up by their mother the next morning for breakfast. But when she goes in to check on her oldest, Anthony, she realizes that he is already up. However, for some reason, his trailer stinks of dead corpses. As they have breakfast, Anthony reveals to his brother that one of their drivers managed to spill the merchandise at the southern border, which means their entire trade is at risk. If the feds get involved, they will lose their buyers, which they really don't want happening now that they have the body of one of the true revivers at hand. They decide to make their move tonight before the investigation hampers their venture, and this is when we see Wayne Cypress visiting his old friend Edmund Holt. Edmund is Wayne's age and a gun fanatic who likes to shoot red squirrels from his window just for the fun of it. After some small talk, Wayne reveals that the feds might investigate the entire town in the near future, and when that happens, he wants Edmund to comply and not create any more new problems for the sheriff's department. Edmund nods and agrees to his demands, but as Wayne is leaving, Edmund pretends to shoot his finger guns at him, and this might imply that Edmund has his own plans. That night, around 6 p.m, Em is driving to her sister Dana's house when she spots 3 spirits fighting each other in the lake below. Em closes her eyes for a moment due to the stress, but when she opens them again, instead of the spirits, she sees 3 men dressed in hazmat suits collecting water samples. Simultaneously, we see Cooper at his father Derek's place and learn that Dana has decided to exchange one of her custody days with him. Cooper doesn't mind it, and neither does his dad, but he has to go out to teach an art class at the university tonight, which is why Nikki will be keeping Cooper company while he is gone. It seems that Nikki and Derek are in a relationship, and as Derek leaves, we see the Czech brothers arriving at the shed that he has rented out. Derek requests that they keep the noise to a minimum because Cooper is here tonight, and Andrew nods and agrees to Derek's demands. However, once Derek is gone, we see Nikki ignore Cooper. She asks him to study on his own in his room, while she suspiciously eyes the Czech brothers from a window while making a call to one of her dealers for some drugs. Cooper, alone in his room, notices that the spirit he has been trying to befriend has followed him here to Derek's place. Back at Dana's place, meanwhile, we see her trying to get on Em's good side by cooking her mum's casserole. Dana digs in, but as they eat, Dana begins her interrogation by telling Dana that she knows about Aaron Weimer, and she knows they have been sleeping together. Dana tries to deny the allegation and claims that he has nothing to do with her murder, but this is when Dana reveals that Em has been evasive and has been refusing to talk about anything ever since she was revived. Em knows this is true, but instead of coming clean, she lashes out at Dana and says that she can never be her mother, no matter what she cooks. This breaks Dana's heart, and this is when we switch to the other side of the town at St. Mark's Church, where Mrs. Myers is trying to find her husband Joe. She questions Jeannie about Joe, who with her uncanny smile informs Mrs. Myers that Joe hasn't been to the church tonight. Mrs. Myers takes her leave, but as she walks out of the church, she finds her husband digging someone's grave with his bare hands as he cries tears of blood. Back at the university, Derek is chatting up one of the students after class when we see Aaron Weimer dejectedly walk out and talk to someone mysterious in his car. He tells the person on the other end about Dana's visit, and the mysterious person isn't happy about this development. The other person thinks that Aaron is going to blow their cover and cause their deaths. Back at Dana's house, we see Em trying to apologize to her sister for what she said. But this is when Dana reveals that she knows about Em's God complex. She knows that her sister thinks that she is unkillable now that she is back from the dead, but she then tells Em about Arlene's demise and that the revivers aren't immortal. But Em claims that she is a bit different than the rest of them, and this is when Dana laughs and mocks her sister for thinking that she is the second coming of Christ. She calls Em their father's favourite as she is leaving, but this causes Em to stop dead in her tracks. She confronts Dana about the past and makes her realise that Dana's acting out after their mother's death meant that she wasn't their father's favourite anymore. Dana started doing drugs, started staying away from the house for days, all because she blamed Wayne for their mother's death, and he responded by giving her all the love and attention he had. He cared for her even when she got knocked up by Derek in high school, and because of this, Wayne forgot Em even existed, and she was practically forced to be the best to ensure that her father didn't forget her. As Em is lashing out, her emotions are causing her to cry tears of blood. Blood also trickles down from her mouth until, finally, with one last scream, one of her teeth falls out. Back at Derek's house, we see Nikki digging into Andrew Czech's past through her contacts, and while she is busy, Cooper decides to go outside and check in on the spirit that he has befriended. The spirit has brought back the toys Cooper left outside Dana's house, and this is when we switch back and see that Em has forgotten to fill gas in her truck yet again. Her lost tooth has been replaced. and this is when Dinah offers her a ride. But before dropping M, they will be picking up Cooper, and M doesn't mind that at all. She has been wanting to see her nephew for quite a few days now. We switch back to Derek's place and see that the Czech brothers are busy cleaning the shed, when suddenly Cooper barges in accidentally and discovers them dismembering one of the revivers while still keeping him alive. Cooper screams, and seconds later, Nikki rushes out of the house to check in on him. She bangs on the shed's door and asks if the Czech brothers have Cooper. They nod and invite her inside. Nikki is unaware that they are holding Cooper hostage and currently have a shotgun ready for her. Revival Volume 2, Live Like You Mean It, Issue number 10. The Hunt. We catch up with Andrew and Adam Czech as they dig a grave, and unfortunately, this reminds Adam of the time they killed their father for running out on them and their mother. However, this is the next day, early morning, and before we proceed further, we need to see how we got here. Last night, Maytao tried to visit Mrs. Vang after visiting hours, but she was denied her request. However, when she was leaving, Blaine called out to her and he tried to manipulate her because Tao never reported him attacking her and M a few weeks ago. Tao avoided his manipulation. However, Blaine managed to get under her skin because he knows that she isn't reporting him and is pursuing the murdering demonologist story for her paper because she has a better one. We then see Ibrahim go to Edmund Holt's place all by himself to question him about Revival Day and if he was affected by it. Brent was supposed to accompany him here, but because of the recent workload, Ibrahim is here on his own. He thinks that this is going to be an easy and small checkup. However, as soon as he steps into the property, he is caught by a bear trap and Ibrahim struggles to reach his phone in order to get help. Derek reaches his house with a new gift for Cooper. However, when he finds both Nikki and Cooper missing, he begins to panic. When he heads outside and is about to contact Dana, he is approached by Andrew, who offers him some weed and then invites him into the shed. Dana and M drive to Derek's house, and though Dana tries to reconcile with her sister, M tells her to give it up, at least for today. She then reveals that she doesn't like Cooper staying the night with Derek because she doesn't like Nikki. Nikki is a stripper, and Dana thinks that she is a bad influence on Cooper. They reach Derek's place, but this is when a panicking Ibrahim calls Dana and asks for her help. Dana decides to drop M off at Derek's place while she rescues Ibrahim, who is now approached by a gun-wielding Edmund Holt. However, the presence of the police cruiser has alerted the Czech brothers, and we then see Wayne and Ken having a beer in the Big Bull Falls Country Club. They joke about the old days, and this is when Wayne reveals that he doesn't want Dana dating Ibrahim. Ken laughs and reveals that he has sent Ibrahim to Edmund Holt's place so that they can scare him away. And though racist, Wayne is a man of honor. He storms out of the club because he knows Ibrahim is in danger and that he needs to do something about it. Cooper, meanwhile, holds his ears closed in the shed while the Czech brothers continue to dismember the reviver with their hands. Derek pukes his guts out. However, this alerts M to their presence in the shed. She tries to approach the shed carefully, but she is knocked out by Andrew using a shovel. When Anthony discovers this, he orders his brothers to throw M into the same grave as their reviver, Tommy. Edmund, meanwhile, threatens Ibrahim with his gun and then heads inside to get his tools, implying that he is going to torture him for being a Muslim. It's 9 p.m. and on the other side of town, we see Aaron and Nithya attending marriage counselling sessions with the local pastor. They head outside after the session and have a brief conversation, which implies that though Nithya wants to save their relationship, Aaron takes her for granted. As she is pouring her heart out to him, he rushes away to talk with Joe Myers. Andrew and Adam carry M into the grave we saw earlier, and it is revealed that though missing his lower half, somehow Tommy is still alive because he is a reviver. They plan to bury him and fetch him again in the summer to continue their organ trafficking ring. They throw M in with him and begin to pour dirt over them. However, this is when Andrew is distracted by a nearby spirit, whom he thinks is an albino deer. When he tries to shoot the spirit using his rifle, he gets the shock of his life when he sees its face. Simultaneously, Adam realizes that Tommy is trying to say something, but this gives M plenty of time to come back to life. She rips Adam's throat out, and when Andrew rushes to his aid, he watches M clutching, covered in blood, ordering him to run because the hunt has just begun. Revival Volume 2, Live Like You Mean It, issue number 11, The Morning of Mourning. Cooper continues to hold his ears closed, and though his father tries to fight back, he soon stops dead in his tracks when he realizes that Anthony is packing. Meanwhile, Em stalks Andrew while the latter runs away from her frantically. As he gets near the shed, he begins to scream for Anthony, but before he can alert his older brother, Em tackles him to the ground, and this is when Andrew begins to scream at the top of his lungs for Anthony to kill Derek and his family. Em screams for him to shut up, but when he doesn't, she begins to choke him, and before you know it, she has killed Andrew. Edmund, meanwhile, approaches Ibrahim at his property with a pair of bolt cutters. It's clear that the old man is going to help him, but for some reason, Ibrahim thinks Holt is going to use it to torture him, and this thought seems to be shared by Wayne as well, who shows up to the scene at that moment and fires off a few shots before Edmund can do something to Ibrahim. He orders Edmund Holt to drop his weapon, but Edmund didn't plan on hurting Ibrahim in the first place. Wayne and Holt help Ibrahim out of the trap and then carry him to Wayne's cruiser. Though his leg is intact, the cut-off circulation will need medical attention. After helping him into the cruiser, Wayne and Holt talk privately, and it's a heated conversation to say the least. Holt knows that the higher-ups are trying to set him up because a day after Wayne's warning, a Muslim CDC liaison trespasses on his property. Edmund knows that they were expecting him to kill Ibrahim, and he thinks Wayne is in on this conspiracy. The two part ways, and this is when, on the other side of town, Andrew ties up Derek and Nikki using zip ties and heads outside with Cooper. However, this is when he is confronted by Em, and she reveals that she has killed both Andrew and Adam. Anthony tries to threaten Cooper, but the loss eventually gets to him, and he begins to cry. Em tells him that they don't need to resort to violence, they don't need to fight, but Anthony isn't about to back down now. He kicks Em in the gut, stomps on her throat, and tells her about Tommy Torso, the reviver they had been exploiting since all of this started. The Czech brothers used to deal drugs before the revival day, but once that happened, they realized one of their regular meth addicts, Tommy, overdosed and came back. Within a day or two, the Czech brothers realized that people around the world were willing to offer them loads of money for organs and flesh that belonged to revivers. So they decided to exploit Tommy. He offered his body in exchange for drugs and money for his girlfriend, and the brothers systematically began chopping off his body. They started with his toes, a few pieces of flesh, until they eventually reached where they are now. Tommy is just a torso. Tommy didn't complain because they kept drugging him 24/7, and his girlfriend didn't care because after all the money she received, she forgot all about Tommy. Anthony puts the gun to Cooper's head and threatens to do the same to Em, only this time there will be no guns involved. However, this is when the spirit that has been following Cooper around shows up and distracts Anthony. Scared and confused, Cooper makes a run for it, and Anthony tries to shoot him. However, this is when Em tackles him to the ground, just like she did with Andrew. In a fit of rage, Anthony screams that he is going to kill Dana, Derek, Cooper and Wayne to get back at Em while she struggles to wrestle the pistol out of his hands. However, while struggling, Em accidentally pulls the trigger, and the next thing you know, Anthony's brains are splattered all over the snow. The spirit quietly leaves the scene, knowing that Cooper is safe, and Em hugs him for the first time since she came back from the dead. It's almost 3 a.m. right now, and back at the hospital, Dana and Wayne talk privately after having admitted Ibrahim for his injuries. Dana knows that Ibrahim shouldn't have been assigned to Edmund Holt, at least not alone, and this is when his father reveals that bigger forces are at play here. They can't even trust their own officers anymore, and if they are to survive this, they need to stick together as a family. Dana needs to trust him, and there needs to be no secrets or lies between them. We then see Nina and Derek putting Cooper to bed, and despite his age, the little kid is taking this rather well, and it's because Dana taught him life isn't a video game. There are no second lives. Sometimes people need to die. Dana, meanwhile, tries to put Tommy out of his misery temporarily, but this is when the spirit that saved them shows up and enters Tommy's body after uttering the word passenger. When the spirit enters Tommy's body, he is momentarily at peace before burning up and turning into nothing but dust. Dana shows up and jokes that she is surprised to see Derek up on his feet before noon for once. However, this is when he turns around, hugs her and begins to cry. He apologizes again and again, and this is when Dana pushes him away and demands to see her son this very instant. Derek assures her that Cooper is fine, and this is when Dana notices the bodies burning in the fire in front of them. She fears for Em's safety, and Derek points towards the woods. Dana runs to Martha, and instead of telling Dana what happened, Em decides to open up to her and share one of her poems with her. As Em recites her poem, we see that Bonnie and Lester have begun dating, and he has sent sent her flowers. Blaine grins like a maniac, while, for some reason, Mei Tao notes down his statement. Agnes Czech, the mother of the Czech brothers, realizes that her sons didn't come home last night, and deep down, she knows that this means they are likely dead. Anders Hine, meanwhile, leaves town in a bus, and his fellow passenger is surprised that he is missing 2 of his fingers. Cooper struggles to sleep at night, and Dana is shocked by all that happened in the few hours that she was gone. Derek, meanwhile, struggles with retrospection and realizes that he has been a failure all this time. Revival, Volume 3, A Faraway Place, Issue number 12. Sometimes a monster. Martha plays a game of horseshoes with her father as he reminisces about how he and Ken would compete in this game when Martha was young, just to see her smile. Her father misses M's smile, but we see that M is remembering this conversation while skinny dipping in the river. She continues to remember her father's words, and after wallowing in her sorrow, M simply climbs out and sits on the riverbank until she has completely dried off. Cooper, meanwhile, is busy drawing a comic on the kitchen table while Dana talks to Derek. Derek is simply checking up on his son, but Dana blames him for being negligent and tells him that he should pray his son doesn't end up with trauma when he grows up. Dana cuts the call and then takes a look at Cooper's comic. It's a cute comic that tells the tale of Wau, how it was a peaceful town that was quarantined after Revival Day. According to Cooper, the town of Wau had no superheroes, which was a bummer, but that didn't worry him because he had his supermum. He hugs his mother and thanks her for the new crayons, and Dana, for once, seems to ease up. We then see Edmund Holt visit Ibrahim in his nightmares and threaten him because Ibrahim has lost his faith and doesn't know where he will go when he dies. Ibrahim wakes up while screaming, and although in his heart he wants to call Dana, he ends up calling Ami. Ami is out on a date, but she loves Ibrahim and wants to get back with him, so she decides to ditch her date for him. On the other side of town, Aaron Weimer is having a therapeutic session with Joe Myers because his wife is worried about him. Joe tried to dig his own grave with his bare hands a few days ago, and he doesn't sleep because he is afraid he won't be able to wake up again. Aaron is convincing and manipulative enough to make Joe open up, and he tells Aaron all about himself. He tells him about the missing ring and about Mimi. He also reveals that he had a vision of M trying to save his spirit when it fell into the water days ago, but Joe perceived it as a biblical vision instead. M appeared as the angel of death to him, and he perceived the entire experience as a vision of the afterlife. Remembering Mimi, even now after being revived, still being in love with her, is how Joe knows that he is alive and not dead. We then see the CDC organising a huge operation at the airport where volunteers are helping them match all the body parts to their respective people that were found in the recent crash. Jeannie Gorski has brought her group of revivers to volunteer for the operation, and this is when M shows up to join them because she doesn't know what to do tonight. She doesn't want to be alone, and this is when Jeannie notices that M's hair is covered in icy water. M tells her about the operation and that she can start by retrieving body parts from the freezer at the back. M enters the freezer and is horrified by all the body parts, and this is when she is approached by Jordan Borchardt, a little girl who is also a reviver. Jordan was okay after coming back from life, but the fact that she didn't see God upon dying pissed her mother off. She died in a car crash, and though she tries to make the best of her life, we see that she is depressed and indifferent to all the body parts around her. Meanwhile, at the mayor's office, Ken is talking to his wife and is trying to control her life, when his secretary interrupts him and informs him of the CDC representatives here for an emergency meeting. He greets Maureen and the 2 scientists and pretends to be in a good mood, but once they have entered his office, he turns to his secretary and snarls at her for interrupting him while he was talking to his wife. Maureen then reveals that the 2 scientists are Jerome and Sue, and they have discovered that all the water around Wau is concentrated with deuterium oxide, which means it's heavy water, which is usually found in nuclear reactors. Maureen tells him that this is revealed to the public gradually to avoid mass panic. Back in the Alpine Garden Court, we see Mei Tao visiting Agnes Czech, who tells her all about her missing sons. It's clear that Agnes deludes herself and doesn't believe her sons were involved in illegal activities, and she gets increasingly angry when May simply mentions this. Agnes apologizes, and May decides to rummage through Anthony's belongings to investigate their disappearance. We then see that the community center for the Islamic Society of Central Wisconsin has been vandalized, and Ibrahim Ramin arrives on the scene to help the only representative there doing the cleaning. Mei Tao, meanwhile, discovers a photo photo where Anthony and Andrew are proudly posing beside their father's grave after killing him. Jordan, meanwhile, is off to school, and we see that her father has captured one of the spirits on one of his trail cams. Dinah, meanwhile, sends Cooper to school and then discovers another comic drawn by him. This one is about Cooper sometimes feeling alone, about his encounters with the spirits, and how his Aunt Em shows up to save the day when his mother isn't around. But on the last page, Cooper says that sometimes his Aunt Em is a hero, and sometimes she's a monster. Revival Volume 3, A Faraway Place, issue number 13, The Call of the Soul. We then see what happened last week when Dana discovered that Em had murdered the Czech brothers. Dinah was horrified when the truth was revealed, and though Em tried to justify the murders because she did them to save Derek, Cooper and Nikki, Dana tried to arrest her nonetheless because she's an officer of the law. This is when Em was forced to remind Dana that she was a mother and a sister, which is why she would need to keep this a secret for all their sakes. We then catch up with Dana and Em in the present day, and today is Valentine's Day. Em is going out with Ibrahim while Em has decided to stay home and babysit Jordan and Cooper. Jordan is busy playing video games with Cooper, and Em thinks that Cooper's company will be a positive influence on her. We then see Dana struggling with her earrings, and when Em helps her, we learn that she is half nervous about the double date and half nervous about leaving Em alone for another night, considering what has happened in the past. Em promises to protect Cooper and Jordan with her life, and this is when we see Jordan leave the video game and head towards the window. Em, meanwhile, is forced to draw blood so that Dana can wear her earrings again, and once that's done, Dana kisses and hugs Cooper before leaving with Ibrahim. Cooper is naturally embarrassed to be manhandled by his mother in front of Jordan, but thankfully she is still staring out of the window. We then catch up with Aaron Weimers and Joe Myers at the university, where they are having another therapy session as Aaron gets to document the experiences of the revivers through Joe. Aaron tries to probe Joe. He tries to ask the stereotypical question of, "How did that make you feel?" after each statement, and this is when Joe lashes out while crying rotten blood because he has been trying to tell Aaron all this while he can't feel anything. Mrs. Vang has told Joe that she stole his ring, which is part of the reason he has snapped. In the hospital, meanwhile, May Tao questions Blaine about the Czech brothers. He doesn't know much except that the photo from Father's Day was taken in the forestry unit in 153. When May tries to leave, Blaine tries to cop a feel and hit on her, and this is when May punches him in the crotch and then visits Mrs. Vang to catch up with her. Mrs. Vang has knitted her a small blanket, and May Tao leaves after thanking her. At the Pulp House pub, meanwhile, Brent is busy singing a song in a pink shirt while on a date with his boyfriend Ian. Naturally, the entire crowd in the small conservative town is perplexed, and once he returns to the table, we see that Ibrahim and Dana are out on a date alongside Bonnie, Lester, Brent and Ian. It's a triple date, and Brent's karaoke is followed by Lester's heavy metal song, which leaves everyone equally perplexed. Dana tries to get Ibrahim to sing, but he feels too nervous and not drunk enough to go out on his own, and this is when Dana offers to do a duet. At the university, however, Joe has snapped, and to feel something, he decides to steal it from Aaron. He leaps towards the professor and kisses him on the lips. This is when Joe experiences Aaron's biggest regrets and best memories, and they all involve Martha. He sees the night Aaron took Martha out to attend a rap concert. That night, the professor showed Martha the parallels between rap and poetry, which instantly made her fall for him. They left the concert while holding hands, and that night was the last night Aaron saw Em smile, and he has ever since been addicted to it, just like Wayne Cypress, her father. And this is when Joe pulls away and explains to Aaron that he is hurt. He knows he will never have the opportunity to witness that smile again, and like Joe had his missing ring to tell him that he was alive, Aaron has the missing smile to torment him for life. Aaron decides to call Em after a few minutes, and she instantly panics upon seeing his name on the caller ID. She fails to notice that Cooper and Jordan are talking about the spirits in the woods and are trying to get Jordan's Barbie to look like one. But when Cooper asks Jordan to be the ghost in the woods, Em begins to pay attention to what the kids are doing. Dinah, meanwhile, is telling Ibrahim about the things she and Derek did when they were teenagers, and Ibrahim jokes and moves in for a kiss. However, like last time, they are interrupted. However, it's Ibrahim who gets a call this time. It's Ami who is calling him, and Lester decides to buy Dinah a drink while he is gone. Jordan, meanwhile, is joined by Em as she stares out of the window and into the woods once again. She asks her about the ghosts, and Jordan reveals that she can hear them in the woods all the time. Jordan thinks that she can hear them because she's a kid, and this is when we switch back to Dana and Lester and learn that Dana is worried that Lester might end up hurting Bonnie because he is a playboy. Ibrahim and Ami catch up, and Ibrahim leads Ami on, while Lester tells Dana that though he might be a former celebrity, he is dating Bonnie and is interested in people generally because of the potential that he sees in them. We then see Joe Myers visiting Mrs. Vang, and he learns that she has written a letter to him. In the letter, she apologizes for stealing the ring. She thought it was insignificant enough that he wouldn't notice, but then she eventually realized that it meant a lot to him. She can't find the original ring, but she has made him a ceremonial one as a keepsake. In the Hmong culture, they make this traditional ring for their loved ones. The silver is a symbol of the wealth of life, and the lock in it is a good luck charm, which is intended to keep the soul longer in the body to ensure a longer life. Joe is brought to tears when he reads the letter, and though he might have intended to murder Mrs. Vang before, he isn't going to do so now. Jordan, meanwhile, reveals to Em that she hears the ghosts in the woods no matter where she goes, and as she says that it might be because she hasn't lived long enough because she is 8 years old, we see Joe Myers pass away like Tommy a week ago, now that he has achieved peace. Joe turns into dust, and back at the house, Jordan tells Em that she can hear the ghosts calling out for her too. Revival, Volume 3, A Faraway Place, Issue number 14, Christmas. The two ghosts in the woods that Jordan could hear earlier are conversing with each other. One is younger, while the other is older. It's implied that the younger one might be Jordan's spirit. This is when Ibrahim drops Dana at her home, and though she tries to invite him inside, Ibrahim decides not to risk it, because he and Dinah have already been through a lot over the past few weeks. Dinah heads inside, Cooper is asleep, and before Em leaves with Jordan, Dinah hugs her and thanks her for everything, not just for babysitting Cooper, but for saving his life a week ago. Dana has come around, but despite this heartfelt moment, Em doesn't feel anything. While Em is driving Jordan to her home, they witness two fire trucks speeding towards the hospital. Jordan talks about Cooper and that she thinks he's cool, but once the trucks are gone, she winces and holds her ears closed because she can hear the ghosts once again, and this time they're awfully loud. This is when Em is ambushed by a spirit from the back seat, which causes her to swerve and crash her car into the ditch. After the crash, however, Jordan simply walks away and stares towards the paper mill on the other side of the road, and it's clear that she is listening to the ghosts once again. The ghost is headed for Jordan, and Em is forced to sprint past it, grab Jordan and run into the mill. She demands to know why Jordan didn't run away when she screamed for her to do so, and this is when Jordan reveals that she intends to meet with the ghost. They tell her that all the revivers are supposed to be dead, and Jordan believes them. Em tries to tell Jordan that it is a good thing she came back. It made her parents happy. She's happy that Jordan's alive, but Jordan's trauma twisted with the heavy dose of religion force fed to her by her parents makes her believe that she is supposed to stay dead and not come back to life like Jesus. She believes that Em is choosing not to listen to the ghosts, and so to achieve what she thinks is right, she pokes Em's right eye out with her bare hands and runs away into the mill. The ghost follows her, and this is when we see that the firefighters were speeding towards the hospital because Mrs. Vang suffered severe smoke inhalation once Joe was burned to a crisp beside her. May arrives, worried for Mrs. Vang, but this is when Blaine calls her out and tells her about Joe. He didn't know the old man's name. He knew the look in his eyes. It's the look of someone being possessed. The first time he saw that look was in his favourite uncle's eyes once he was possessed. The second time he saw that look was in Em's eyes when she crashed him into the semi-truck. And the third time was when he locked eyes with Joe Myers last night. Back at the paper mill, Em pops her eye back in and then tries to find Jordan while talking to the ghost. She knows what it's capable of, and though killing Tommy was mercy last time, killing Jordan will be wrong this time. She threatens to kill it using water if it goes for Jordan, and this is when the ghost pops out, screeches loudly, and then runs away while leaving Em momentarily incapacitated. The police, meanwhile, have found Em's crashed car and have decided to inform her father about it. Jordan, meanwhile, stares out into the water, admiring the view, and as she plays around on the shore, she talks to the ghost and tells it that she's not scared of dying. She then reveals that she regrets regrets coming back to life because instead of being happy, her parents are sad and scared of her. She remembers how every time her mum looks at her, she has the look of disappointment, and Jordan knows that she should have stayed dead. This is when her spirit begins to approach her, but is distracted by Jordan's Barbie. As the spirit admires the toy, M pops out of the water near it, grabs it by the throat and drowns it until nothing remains. Jordan cries and begs for M to stop, but once the spirit is destroyed, she claims that everyone simply wants to use her for proof of an afterlife. We see that, unlike all the revivers we saw in the past, Jordan does not bleed from her eyes when crying. Joe's wife is hysterical at the hospital, and the officer attending to her tries to maintain decorum. Brent, meanwhile, is investigating Joe's spontaneous combustion as Sheriff Wayne is informed about M's crash. M made up the story that they swerved off the road to avoid hitting a fawn, and everyone seemingly believes her because this isn't the first time something like that has happened with her. Brent, however, is still a bit drunk because he was just on a date with Ian and the other couple singing karaoke, and he struggles to make light of this situation. We then see that Joe didn't completely burn to a crisp like Tommy. Instead, his skeleton and a little bit of flesh is left behind with the ring given to him by Mrs. Vang still intact in his hand. The officer attending to the crash drops off M at her dorms, but once she drives away, M runs across the street and enters Aaron's office, who is horrified after learning that Joe has died. M gets inside, strips off her and Aaron's clothes, and lies down on the floor with him in order to feel something, anything. On the other side of town, Jordan's mother wakes up to use the washroom in the middle of the night, only to find that her daughter has cut off her eyelids using a razor blade. Jordan says that this time she dies, she won't be able to close her eyes, which is why she should be able to see God and fulfill her mother's wish. Revival, Volume 3, A Faraway Place, Issue number 15, Radicalization. We start this issue with Dana's narration, where she tells us that after the revival day, the night of Valentine's Day is the most peaceful night she's had. She was woken up by her father to inform her about M's accident, and after that, Dana wasn't able to go to sleep, so she decided to continue investigating M's murder. Dana also reveals to us why she became a detective. It wasn't to please her father, it was so that she could make sense of the universe as a young mother, and it was so that she could protect her son from the universe once he was born. But all that had happened over the past few weeks had made her question her status as the best detective in Walsall. No matter what Cooper and M said, she had failed to save her sister from being murdered, and she had failed to protect Cooper a week ago when M was forced to murder the Czech brothers. The next morning, at around 7:30 a.m, we see the CDC and the FBI confiscating all the cattle in town. The farmers, including the Xiong family and Terry's estranged husband, Robert Stankiewicz, try to fight back, but the authorities don't listen to them. They promise to compensate them for their cattle once they have been tested, and then simply walk away with the cattle. Half an hour later, we see Lester at the university, and he comes across M and notices that she is coming out of Aaron's office. M makes the excuse that Aaron is her academic advisor and quickly walks away, but as she does, Lester notices that her shoes are soaked and that she leaves a trail of water behind her, and this makes him suspicious of her. We then see Derek enter Dana's house once Cooper has left for school, and it is revealed that Dana is going to involve him in her investigation into M because he knows her sister's secret and because he owes her. Derek does his best to apologize to Dana during this and to hit on her, but Dana chides him and asks him to focus on the task. She then reveals all that she has found till now, and everything points to Aaron Weimer as their prime suspect. She tells him about M's affair with him, and then tells him about the calls made from M's phone to him on the night of the murder. Hell, M was texting him all day on Christmas, and that was the last day Dana saw her little sister. M doesn't remember much. She only remembers waking up in the river on the 2nd of January, which is considered to be the revival day. Derek doesn't think that Aaron is to blame necessarily considering the evidence at hand, but Dana isn't about to let a professor that sleeps with one of his students let go so easily. Aaron is an English professor, which means it's likely that he has a journal or a diary, and this is where Derek comes in. He is going to help Dana get her hands on it. Derek agrees, and this is when we catch up with Jordan. She has her eyes covered, her hands tied, and is in the back of her family's car. Her father checks on her and how she is doing, but instead of claiming to be in pain, Jordan says that she feels great, and even offers to slice off her mother's eyelids so she can feel more beautiful. That way, everyone would always be able to see her beautiful eyes. The car stops moments later, and her parents hand her over to the CDC. A soldier takes her away, and this is when she starts to squirm and scream and call out to her father. Jordan's father has a change of heart, but this is when his wife stops him and tells him that their daughter is long dead. Whatever came back in her body isn't their daughter. At around noon, Nikki reaches the strip club, and her regular stalker, Greg, is already there waiting for her. This is when she learns that May Tao is here interviewing one of the girls because she was Anthony's ex. The girl, Amy, tells May that Nikki is the one who likely knows more about the Czech brothers because they had rented her boyfriend's shed. But when Amy calls out to Nikki as she enters the club, Nikki decides to run away. That evening, Ken Dillish, the mayor, addresses the town and claims that the cattle have been taken away for testing to ensure the town's safety. He says they will be handed back in a few days, and the cattle that are not returned will be compensated for. He then proclaims togetherness, calls Revival Day a boon for them, and asks the town to focus on the good rather than the bad. But it's clear that there's dissension among the townspeople. The farmers think that they are being targeted, while the bankers and lawyers get to go scot-free. This is when Edmund Holt joins the conversation and offers the townspeople a way to get back at their higher-ups. Revival Volume 3, A Faraway Place, issue number 16, Burning. The issue starts the next morning by showing us men dressed in hazmat suits armed with captive bolt pistols approaching the cows that were taken into custody. We then see Em studying Joe Myers' passing on her laptop when suddenly she is forced to rush to the washroom to puke her guts out. She then meets up with Dana, who has been waiting outside her room. The two of them hug, and when they get inside, she tells Em about May Tao and that she has been investigating the Czech murders. Em knows Tao too well, but instead of telling Dana about what happened with Blaine, she simply says that Tao used to be her college senior when she was a freshman. Dana then shows Em her new car, and knowing that her sister won't stop snooping around, Dana decides to hand her a police disguise to help her along her escapades. Derek is also here to deliver the car, but as Dana and he leave, it is revealed that Derek was really here to check on Weimer's schedule, because he can do that as he is the art teacher. At around 4 p.m, we see Sheriff Wayne surveying what the CDC is doing with the cows in the Elmwood millwork, which has been turned into a temporary processing facility. Turns out they are culling the cows because they have been ingesting the heavy groundwater and are unfit for consumption. The man in charge assures the sheriff that they are taking every possible measure to contain any infections, and this is when Sheriff Wayne decides to talk with Ibrahim privately. The two of them discuss the timing of this confiscation of cows under the guise of radioactivity, and we learn that Wayne suspects that Ken is using this to distract the public from whatever he is planning. When Sheriff Wayne reaches his car, he finds a St. Joan of Arc card on it with the words, "The tree is thirsty," and he already knows something shady is afoot. This is when Ibrahim notices a rogue forklift rushing towards them, and he manages to push Wayne out of the way just in the nick of time. The forklift is driven by a hazmat suit filled with cow guts and blood, which explodes seconds later after the crash. At 10 p.m, we see the sheriff informing Dinah about the incident and that he and Ibrahim are fine. However, he wanted her to hear about the incident from him rather than anyone else. He orders her not to worry and to continue with her investigation, and this is when we see that Derek has been hiding in the washrooms all this time. The janitor has left, and now it's time for him to investigate Weimer's office. At the hospital, meanwhile, we see Em dressed in a police outfit investigating Jordan's disappearance. Her parents haven't been picking up the phone, and she isn't at the hospital either. This is when she spots May Tao visiting Blaine, and when Em spies on their conversation, she learns that May has been talking to Blaine because he is the only one in this town who would understand her hunger for the truth. Em decides to tail her, and we see Derek slowly making his way to Aaron's office. This is when Derek notices the smell of gas in the air, and when he reaches Aaron's office, he spots a masked figure dousing it in gasoline. The figure then lights a matchstick, and this is when Derek decides to abort the mission. He does his best to inform Dana about what's happening, but all he can do is narrate what he sees. Despite everything, Dana knows something is wrong, but Derek's panicked voice alerts the masked figure, and we see that it is someone who is horribly burned underneath the mask. The figure chases Derek and wrestles him to the floor, and when Aaron's office goes up in flames, the sprinklers around the university are triggered. As water douses everything, Dana decides to shoot through the front door door and enter the building. However, this is when the figure uses Derek as a shield and pushes all of them out of the door. Dana takes the brunt of the impact from the glass door, and while she and Derek recover, the figure sprints away. Dana's entire back is riddled with glass shards, but despite Derek begging her to get help, she orders him to chase after the mysterious figure. Sadly, the figure has disappeared, and this is when we see M having a nightmare where, among the burning bodies, is Mei Tao's lifeless figure. M wakes up and we realise she has followed Mei to the woods near Derek's house. Mei is talking to someone over the phone while Derek painfully removes the glass shards from Dana's back one by one. She refuses to get medical attention to avoid alerting her father to her involvement in the incident at the university today. We then see Aaron being informed about the fire, and his lack of reaction makes it clear that he is more involved in M's death than anyone could imagine. Dana is privy to this fact as well, after what she saw today. We then see the mysterious masked figure walk into the icy water and simply float on his back as a way to relax. Revival Volume 3, A Faraway Place, Issue number 17, Comeuppance. We see Dana dropping Derek off at the nearby Walmart, which is open 24/7. She needs to pursue Aaron's lead, and despite Derek's protests, she convinces him because he needs to be there for Cooper in case something happens to her. Derek gets out, and this is when we see Aaron stoking the fire at his house while handing over a letter to his wife, Nithya. It's the last letter he has written to her, and he tells her that it's paramount that she burns the letter once she has read it. He then sends the email, the poem he wrote to M a long time ago, and then leaves the house in his car. Meanwhile, M follows Mei Tao into the woods in Kronaweta and decides to continue on foot while wearing her signature hoodie. Nithya, meanwhile, has read the letter and has burned the papers, and this is when Dana shows up at the house. Nithya opens the door, and though she tries to act innocent when Dana demands to see her phone, her plan falls apart. We see Aaron racing towards the Silver Creek grist mill, while Dana learns that Nithya had bugged Aaron's car ever since he started having an affair with M. She doesn't know he was dating M, but Dana does, and she decides to take Nithya's phone with her to follow Aaron. She tries to probe Nithya for more information, but she doesn't reveal what Aaron wrote in the letter. Before Dana leaves, she orders Nithya to call the police, and instead of telling them that she was here, she is to tell them someone tried to kick her door in. She knows Aaron is in danger, and she doesn't want Nithya unprotected. Dana leaves, and then kicks the front door a few times to make their lie believable. Aaron has reached the mill. He parks his car and breaks in through the window as his last words to Nithya echo in the background. In the letter, Aaron reminisces about his first meeting with Nithya in India, how his dream to become a writer ultimately led to his demise, and he ended up becoming a liar and an adulterer. Simultaneously, we see Aaron throwing his laptop into the mill's well, ultimately getting rid of every possible proof that might tie him to M's murder. Once that is done, he turns around and screams into the nothingness that he has gotten rid of every loose end. And this is when the mysterious masked figure we saw earlier emerges from the water near the mill. Mei, meanwhile, begins to dig the Czech brothers' father's grave while screaming into the night that she knows M is following her and she knows M killed them. M grabs a stick to knock Mei out as she continues to recount all the events as they happened while she continues to dig the grave. Nithya continues reading Aaron's letter, and we see him get strangled by the mysterious figure. In his last moments, Aaron manages to pull the mask off of his killer, and we see a horrifically burnt face underneath it. However, we then see M has decided not to kill Mei as she continues to reveal what her investigation has yielded. Turns out, Agnes Czech's husband left the family not because he was a deadbeat husband, but because he had an identity crisis. He headed to Los Angeles after leaving them, got surgery, and lived the rest of his life as Alice. Alice returned to the family a month ago, hoping they might be ready to forgive her, but instead, the Czech brothers, her sons, killed her and buried her here. Mei then reveals Alice's decomposing body in the grave and tells M that she doesn't blame her for killing the brothers. They were psychopaths. Their mother knows about it, and there's no point reporting a story like this. Mei leaves as M is left to introspect her choices, and this is when Dana shows up at the Silver Creek grist mill. She is unable to find Aaron or anyone for that matter, and out of frustration, she ends up kicking the equipment nearby. This dislodges one of the covers, and she finds a huge stash of human teeth inside it. That night, at the Marathon City facility where the CDC has established a quarantine facility to house the revivers, we see Jordan banging her head against the locked door to her cell over and over again until she bleeds. This is when the burnt man who killed Aaron climbs into the room beside her, and we learn that he is supposed to be in a coma for the rest of the world, and Jordan is the only one who knows that he is fully functional. We also learn that Jordan was hitting her head not to get out, but because the voices in her head were too loud. In response, the man begins to sing, and it is implied that this is a regular occurrence, and he helps calm Jordan down whenever she feels frustrated. Outside his room, we see that even the CDC doesn't know who he is. Simultaneously, we see Sheriff Wayne and Ibrahim sharing a drink in the Pulp House pub, while the entire townspeople around them slowly get swayed by Edmund Holt's words. Derek is back home, and when Nikki goes back to sleep, we see that he is starting to have feelings for Dana again because he is watching a video they recorded years ago when they were still dating. Dana, however, is more motivated than ever now that Aaron has vanished, and she has begun investigating again. This time, her focus is on the Silver Creek grist mill and how it ties into all of this. Em reaches her dorm room and reads the poem sent by Aaron. In it, Aaron reminisces about all the nights they spent together and how he too felt numb once they broke up, just like Em does now after being revived. We then see what happened to Aaron. He was strangled, tied up and thrown into the same well where he threw his laptop in the Silver Creek grist mill. Revival, Volume 4, Escape to Wisconsin, Issue number 18, Promise to Protect. We see Dana struggling with her wounds in the washroom as Cooper hounds her to come out soon because he needs to pee. Dana refuses to go see a doctor, which is why the wounds on her back are refusing to heal normally. She pops some painkillers, and her conversation with Cooper reveals that he has been having nightmares about the ghosts in the woods a lot lately, and Dana doesn't believe him and is fed up with his antics. Sheriff Wayne and Edmund's unsaid feud, meanwhile, is heating up, and we see this hostility at tonight's traffic stop. Although this seems like a regular traffic stop, Edmund has his gun drawn, and as Wayne leaves, he pops Edmund's tire. Meanwhile, Em is reminiscing about Aaron while staring into the water that revived her, completely unaware that he is dead. Once again, she wakes up from this sweet dream and is forced to puke her guts out in the dorm washroom, only this time she pukes blood and passes out. Dana reaches the office the next day at 8 AM with 2 coffees in hand, and her conversation with Bonnie reveals that she plans to drink both of them because she has been struggling with sleep lately. She struggles to remove her jacket due to her wounds while catching up with Brent, and he reveals that there might be an opportunity to leave town very soon, and in case she is picked to be one of the officers, he wants to tag along. He also tells her that her father was talking to someone who is high up in the political system this morning, and he then hands her the papers she had demanded from the Wau Fire Department. However, when Dana opens this envelope, she gets the shock of her life and decides to leave the office without meeting her father. We then see Lester Magic out for a run with his dogs in the woods. His dog, Chuck, is scared, but Lester continues to push him, failing to notice that a ghost hidden in one of the trees has been stalking them until finally Chuck goes missing. At around 11:30 AM, we see Randy Decker bowling at the local alley when Dana interrupts his session to ask him some questions. Dana knows that her mysterious man from the night Aaron was murdered suffered from severe burns all over his body, and she has just been informed by the fire department that a man revived on January the 2nd while he was being cremated. Randy tells Dana about the man while being haunted by visions of that fateful day. Randy tells her that the man being cremated hadn't been identified. He was of Native American descent, but that's as far as they knew about him. He was a John Doe. He was found in the woods, supposedly dead of natural causes, and none of the local tribes claimed him. He reveals that after he was revived, seared, the CDC took him away in a black ambulance, and there has been no follow-up ever since. Dana leaves, and Randy goes back to his bowling session because he dreamed of becoming a pro once, and he is going to follow that dream because no amount of money can force him to work at the crematorium again. We then see Em meet Derek at the university entrance, and they have a small chat. Derek quickly rushes away after addressing Em, and this is when she becomes a bit suspicious because she is sure now that Derek wasn't happy to see her. She heads inside and finds Nithya visiting her husband's burned down office, hoping to find and salvage a few items that managed to survive. The dean promptly allows her to go to Aaron's office, and Em decides to follow her. Nithya picks up one of Aaron's books, and this is when Em approaches her to inquire about her husband. Aaron hasn't been picking up his phone, and Em wants to know if everything is okay. After all, as far as Nithya is concerned, she is just a student. But this is when Nithya snaps snaps back at her and reveals she knows about M. She knows M was Aaron's mistress, and she is the reason why their marriage was on the brink of divorce. However, as Nithya continues to lash out at him, M begins to get visions that tell her whether what Nithya is saying is true or not. Nithya screams at M that she wasn't the first girl to throw herself at Aaron, nor was she the only one, and this is when the visions get louder. Out of nowhere, M kisses Nithya out of a desperate need to learn the truth, just like Joe Myers, and she sees how Aaron walked away from her that night after handing her the last poem he ever wrote. Nithya pushes M away, and she takes off running while shedding tears of blood. That night, Cooper is busy playing games on his handheld when the spirit from the woods once again shows up at his window, saying his name. Cooper is scared and decides to go to his mother, but finds her passed out on her desk with the wounds on her back clearly visible. He tries to wake her up, but when she doesn't, he decides to touch her back, and this is when she screams loudly in pain and wakes up. Cooper tells her about the ghost and how it's trying to talk to him just like Cooper so that he can make it disappear as well, and this is when Dana has had enough. She lashes out at him and tells him that there is no glowing man in the woods. There is no ghost. Cooper begins to cry, and Dana instantly knows that she shouldn't have screamed at her son. Cooper runs off to his room, and Dana quickly follows him moments later while apologizing to him. Wayne tries to call Dana, but she is too far away to hear her phone, which is still in the basement. Wayne is sent to Dana's voicemail, and the message he records reveals that Dana has been avoiding her father and that a new opportunity with the FBI has just shown up. We see that he is sitting outside Edmund Holt's house, trying to keep an eye on the old man, but in reality, Edmund is the one keeping him distracted. Edmund is on a call with someone, and his words reveal that they have been digging around the town to find their own truth, and that most of the townspeople now support Holt. That night, Lester decides to leave some food out for Chuck in case he decides to come back, but instead, Lester ends up hearing Chuck's otherworldly howls from the woods. Maytao drinks alone in the domino bar, and when someone tries to hit on her, she rudely shoos the man away. Meanwhile, M wakes up from a nightmare and realizes that she has been crying blood all this time. Her entire bed is covered in blood. This is when Dinah tries to apologize to a crying Cooper and asks if she can make it up to her son in any way. This is when Cooper reveals that everything changed when the revival day happened. Everything impossible became possible again. All the things that weren't real became real, like the ghosts in the woods. Cooper doesn't know who or what to believe anymore, and he realized this the day he was kidnapped and held at gunpoint by Anthony Check. That day, when Dana failed to come to his rescue, he knew his supermum cop couldn't protect him, which is why he doesn't think she can make it up to him anymore. Cooper's words are contrasted by Lester Magic staring at the stars out of his window, Maytao passed out in the bar all by herself, and M sitting on the shower's floor while watching the blood from her body go down the drain. Revival Volume 4, Escape to Wisconsin, Issue number 19, Lies and Hidden Truths. Early morning, the next day, Lester is sitting alone in his home having coffee when suddenly he notices that Chuck is finally back. He runs out to check on his dog, only to realize that his dog now speaks like the spirits in the woods, and the first thing he utters is Lester's name. Lester notices that Chuck's heart rate is through the roof, and this is when Chuck collapses on the porch and begins to cough up blood. This is when the little ghost we spotted outside Lester's house a few issues ago pops out of Chuck and tries to enter Lester. Lester gets a vision of drowned baby marsupials as Lester goes out for a run with Chuck, but this is when he manages to cough out the spirit and it quickly runs away. The vision we just saw is somehow related to Lester deeply because once the spirit is gone, Lester gets down on his knees and screams loudly up at the sky. Not fucking today. We then see Edmund Holt perched on top of a tree that is awfully close to the quarantine line. This is when Sheriff Wayne approaches him, and we see that the tension between them is growing rapidly. Wayne cites Edmund for defecating on public property, and we learn that Sheriff Wayne is waiting for Holt to make a mistake that gives him a reason to arrest him. Holt, however, takes the ticket and wipes his ass with it defiantly, making it clear that Wayne's dreams aren't about to come true anytime soon. We then see Ibrahim arrive at Dana's house, and she finally decides to tell him about her sister. When he learns that M is a reviver and that Dana hasn't reported her murder to anyone, he is appalled. She is supposed to be an officer, and letting a reviver go undocumented could lead to unprecedented outcomes. Dana tells him why it's paramount to keep this a secret, and then tells him he needs his help to find out who the mysterious John Doe is. For the cremation to be approved, his report would have been registered with the county medical examiner, and she needs Ibrahim to find out more about it through his connections. Ibrahim, frustrated, tells Dana that though she's his friend and partner, he simply cannot do this. He starts to leave, and when Dana reaches out for him, she cries out in pain, and this is when Ibrahim realizes that she is hurt. He orders Dana to let him take a look, and realizes that not all the glass has been removed from her back. She's lucky to have him here, otherwise sepsis would have set in any day now. This is when Dana reveals why she needs to do this on her own. If her dad learns that M was murdered, it would break him. He was already a broken man when their mother had died, and back then he had told Dana that she was already the best daughter in the world. All she needed to be now was the best sister for M. Unfortunately, Dana was a teenager back then, and instead of helping her father, she processed her mother's loss through rebellion and ended up fighting him every step of the way for the next 15 years. Ibrahim now realizes why she needs to do this on her own, and realizing that she needs a doctor by her side, decides to help her. As he leaves, they hug, and this is spotted by Derek, who is here with Cooper to get his game console. Upon seeing Dana close with Ibrahim, Derek can't help but feel a tinge of jealousy. A few minutes later, we see Ken Dillish inviting Wayne and Dana to the town hall tonight, because there is someone important who wants to meet with them. We see that Ken's wife continues to overdose on pills now that she knows she can't die, and so he is forced to tie her up and keep her trapped in the bathtub while getting rid of all of the drugs in the house. At the town's Salvation Army, we see M meet up with Jeannie, who is still propagating her cult of revivers. M ends up puking again, and this is when Jeannie realizes something is wrong. They go to Jeannie's office, and M confesses that she hasn't been well lately. She keeps puking and waking up covered in blood, and she feels like someone is trying to take her body away. Jeannie says that maybe Jesus is taking back the life he gave M, and this cultish idea causes her to lash out and walk out. M spends the next few hours at an abandoned skate park when suddenly a man dressed as Jesus narrowly misses her and lands on his friend dressed in a rabbit suit instead. They're skaters filming their new movie, and when the man's friend breaks his nose using a skateboard in retaliation, it doesn't seem to bother him. He introduces himself as Rhodey, and M watches his face fix itself in real time, and she learns that Rhodey is one of the revivers. That night, Derek and Cooper are busy playing video games when he gets a call from Dana, who asks him to look after Cooper for the night because she has important work to do. Derek thinks that she is going on a date with Ibrahim as it's Saturday night, and Dana simply tells him to stop acting creepy. We then see her pull over May Tao, who is still drunk from last night. She has lost all her money and has no paycheck coming in this time because she decided to drop the story of the Czech brothers' murders for Dana and M's sake. Dana lets her go without a ticket and decides to call her a cab instead. However, May decides that she is sober enough to drive home and leaves. That night in the city hall, outside of the mayor's office, Dana hugs her father, and moments later, she is introduced to Agent Fredrickson and Agent Puig from the FBI by Ken. The two agents introduce themselves and reveal that they are here to talk to Dana about the Czech brothers. Revival, Volume 4, Escape to Wisconsin, Issue number 20, The Waiting Game. Dana imagines what would happen if the truth were revealed to the FBI agents. She would be sent to prison for at least 30 years. M would be given the death penalty, and their father would be devastated to learn that M is a reviver and was murdered. Dana would be yet again helpless in saving her sister, and she would be forced to watch her father destroy herself from the sidelines. In reality, however, Dana is being questioned about the Czech brothers in the present day, and all of this has been happening in her head. They ask Dana about her take on their disappearance, and she acts coy and says that they might have escaped the quarantine. The two agents tell her that it is unlikely that they managed to get past the high security, and then tell her about the organ trade that they were involved in. Upon realizing that Dana has been through a lot since the revival day and that nothing really affects her anymore, the agents decide to share a video with her. In the video, a hooded man is attacked by a couple of thugs in a back alley in New York. They eventually end up shooting him 4 times, and though the man should have been carried away in an ambulance to the morgue, he simply manages to get up a few minutes later and walk away. This is when Dana realizes that there might be an escaped reviver currently seeking refuge in New York City. We then see 2 teenage girls, Desiree and Marianne, watching a B-grade horror movie named Octopocalypse and learn that this movie was written and directed by Edmund Holt. They make fun of the old man for making this movie and speculate that he might have moved to the middle of nowhere to avoid people questioning him about the movie. Desiree is Hammond Fisher's daughter, and he is a close cohort of Edmund Holt in the recent coup that he is planning. Holt and Fisher show up, scare the two teenagers for making fun of Holt's past, and then order them to go to their rooms. We then see Em having dinner with Rhodey, and when she thinks Rhodey doesn't understand her, he asks her out for a walk to show her a different perspective on this new life that they have been granted. An hour later, at 8 p.m, we see Sheriff Wayne and his old friend and mayor, Ken Dillish, finally have a much-needed talk where there are no secrets. Wayne lashes out at his friend for keeping secrets, for sending Ibrahim to Holt's property, and for using the radioactive water story as a distraction. Wayne has played poker with Ken for a decade, and he knows when his friend is trying to distract others. Diane, Ken's wife, interrupts their conversation and politely asks if they require any more beers, but Ken dismisses her like he usually does. He then tells Wayne that he is no longer the mayor of this town. He is now dealing with outside forces like the CDC and the FBI, which means that he is playing the big game now. Meanwhile, both of them fail to notice that Diane has picked up a huge pair of scissors, and the very next second, she slices her neck almost in half. Wayne rushes to her aid and orders Ken to call an ambulance, but a few seconds later, he watches Diane's neck heal itself in real time, and this is when Wayne realizes what his friend has been dealing with. Meanwhile, Rhodey and Em take a walk, and Rhodey realizes that Em is trying to find meaning while not accepting who she truly is. She is still trying to be human and refuses to recognize herself and her powers unless she is forced to do so. Em, however, thinks Rhodey is reckless and simply wants to use his powers to perform death-defying stunts for his YouTube channel. This is when Rhodey decides to make Em relive something the Revivors don't need to be scared of. He climbs onto a nearby bridge, grabs her hand and flings them both off of it. As they fall, he tells her that she needs to live in the present and accept who she is. She needs to accept this rush before their death as the new high, because, like it or not, the two of them can't die. As they land with broken bones on the asphalt below, both of them begin to laugh maniacally. An hour later at 9 p.m, Dana picks up Cooper from Derek's place and notices that her son is acting weird. She asks him simple questions, and eventually Cooper ends up revealing that he thinks it might be better if he lived with his father forever. Dana thinks this is her son having second thoughts, and so she tries to tell him why his father is always available and why he doesn't have a job, but that is when Cooper says that Dad told him that she would say that. This is when Dana realizes that Derek is poisoning Cooper against her because he has told Cooper that Dana stays away more and more since the revival day because she doesn't like them and wants to spend more time with her new boyfriend, Ibrahim. Dana instinctively recoils, and her face tells us that if Cooper weren't here, she might have actually murdered Derek if she managed to get her hands on him. Sheriff Wayne, meanwhile, sits in the bathtub, washing away the blood from his body as he learns that Ken plans on keeping his wife sedated until he can find a way to suppress her suicidal tendencies. Wayne tries to tell him that she needs therapy. She needs to be registered with the CDC, and if she truly wants to die, then there is no point in denying her what she truly wants. However, Ken is defiant, and he brings up the night Wayne's wife, Patricia, died to ensure that he stays quiet about this. Turns out that Wayne was responsible for his wife's death. He was drunk, and they were on a bike when the crash happened. Patricia died, and Wayne was clearly at fault. However, his friend Ken helped him cover up the accident, and Ken called in this cover-up as a favour so that Wayne would keep his wife's status as a reviver. Wayne has no choice but to give in, and on the other side of town, we see Derek smoking and enjoying his time with Nikki now that Cooper is gone. Seconds later, however, Dana pounds on his front door, and when he opens it, Dana abuses the hell out of him and tells him that he needs to mind his business from now on. If he doesn't like her dating Ibrahim, that's his problem, and if he ever tries to poison Cooper again with lies, she will kill him. Dana is going to New York City, and during that time, Cooper will spend time with her father instead of him, and if Derek has a problem, he can hire a lawyer to take care of it. She leaves after scaring the hell out of Derek, and this is when we see Lester meeting up with his old friend, Don Wapoose. at the local strip club. Don is a Native American and his father used to be a shaman, which is why Lester opens up to him and tells him about his encounter with the spirit in the woods recently. He tells Don how the spirit inhabited Chuck's body first, killed him, and then tried to inhabit Lester. Lester also reveals that he momentarily was able to feel how the spirit felt, and the only reason it exited Lester's body is because it craved a younger one. Don jokes about Lester's experience at first, because they both regularly prank each other, but upon realizing that Lester's serious, Don decides to help his friend exact revenge on the spirit in the woods. We then see Brent driving Dana to the airport the next day and learn that though she dreamed of traveling the world as a teenager, she has never really been out of Wisconsin all her life. She then mentions how she has been waiting for this day all her life, but that's an aspect the Revivors excel at. They can wait forever. She then mentions how Anders Hine was able to fake his illness and pretend to be in a vegetative state for weeks in order to exact his revenge. And we are shown that Dana mentions this because deep down she knows who she is pursuing in New York City. It's Anders Hine. She became privy to this when she saw the footage because the person in the footage was missing 2 fingers, the same fingers that were shot off by Brent when he saved Dana's life. We then see Anders Hine patiently sitting in a chair and waiting as he looks out at the Big Apple's skyline. Revival, Volume 4, Escape to Wisconsin, issue number 21, Act of Man. We see Dana in New York, and she is clearly overwhelmed by the sheer number of people in the street as well as the chaos. However, she doesn't fail to notice that the Revivors and the Revival Day have managed to insert themselves in the city's zeitgeist. She heads to the federal office and meets up with Agent Poig, who tells her that there has been a murder related to their case and that they should head there instantly. The two make small talk, and back in Marathon City near Wau, we see Ibrahim visiting the CDC facility where Jordan and John Doe are kept captive. The doctor in charge tells Ramin about John Doe, how he was revived while he was being cremated, and how this makes his case rather peculiar. His nerve endings were damaged enough not to make him feel any pain, but due to his nature as a reviver now, the nerve endings are continuously redeveloped to make him feel pain, but not enough to completely heal, and so they are destroyed seconds later. This means that the man is in an eternal loop of burning over and over again, which is why, as an act of mercy, the CDC keeps him in an induced coma, which is why the man leaving the facility is completely out of question. He occasionally sings songs, which the CDC doctor thinks is an involuntary reaction to his comatose state. Ibrahim watches the man singing songs, and he knows there is something wrong with him. This is when we glimpse one of M's dreams, where she is staring into the water once again. This time she is approached by a stag with white roses attached to his antlers, and when M picks one of them, when she is offered, she realizes that the rose is covered in blood. M instantly wakes up in Rhodey's bed and is glad to learn that she did not bleed all over it. Rhodey assures her that she's all right, and we learn that despite what it looks like, they did not end up sleeping with each other. M quickly gets dressed and leaves, and this is when, once again, we see Dana taking in the sights of New York City. The homeless people, the fake t-shirts, all seem to now be influenced by Revival Day and the happenings in Wau. Minutes later, they arrive at the Polsky Meat Distributors, where the owner was murdered, and this is when we see Ibrahim meeting with the medical examiner in the Marathon County Courthouse and jail. The medical examiner tells Ibrahim what he already knows. The man in question, John Doe, was registered in the NamUs as well as the missing persons database, but it yielded no results. They were never able to identify him, and this is when Ibrahim decides to leave. But this is when the medical examiner decides to come clean and reveal something to Ibrahim that he hasn't talked about to anyone else. He reveals that a few weeks ago, he was at a bar when a very flirty and beautiful young woman approached him, and the examiner stupidly ended up revealing all he knew about John Doe to her. He knows he shouldn't have done that, but it was as though he was in a trance. And it might be true because the examiner never remembers how he got to the bar or out of it and into his home. What's weird is that he has been sober for 15 years, and even when he goes to a bar, he always has ginger ale, so he doesn't know how this could be a hallucination. But he knows all those events occurred because he still has the card that the woman gave him. He takes it out of his wallet and hands it over to Ibrahim. The card belongs to a woman named Rose Blackdeer, and she is a psychic. We then catch up with Dinah and learn that the owner of the meat distribution plant has been butchered by a maniac. He has been decapitated and his body has been put on display with its guts spilling out. They suspect that the man was involved in the reviver organ trade out of Wau, and Dinah suspects that could be the case because half of Wau's population is Polish. They continue investigating, but one thing puzzles Poig, Fredrickson and Dana. If the killer was exacting revenge on the owner for being involved in the trade, why did he butcher the owner mercilessly? This is when Poig thinks that the killer might have been trying to send a message, and when he touches the owner's decapitated head, it instantly reanimates and coughs blood all over him. The head then begins to say something in Polish, followed by the words "O dollar O" over and over again. Seconds later, the head and the body go up in flames, and Dana realizes that the owner was cut up this way because he was a reviver. We then see Cooper at his grandfather's place. Just like every grown-up, his grandfather isn't paying attention to him, and when Wayne gets a call, he asks Cooper to simply take a message. The call is from Edmund Holt, and he ends up telling Cooper about the monster movie he made a few decades ago, and that Cooper should visit him sometime because Holt still has the octopus in his garage. This is when Wayne notices that Cooper has been on the call for too long, and when he learns that he has been talking to Holt, he sends Cooper to his room and threatens Holt for talking to his grandson. Holt, however, has made this call to mock Wayne because he hasn't been tailing Holt lately. He has also sent Dana out of town, and Holt taunts Wayne by saying that if they don't get back to their old cat and mouse routine, he might need to find someone new to play with. This is when we see Cooper researching the Octopocalypse movie, and he quickly finds out that he was talking to Edmund Holt. We then see Lester and Don at Lester's property, which is now covered in dream catchers. Don suspects that Lester's ghost is a Manitou, and that these dream catchers will help them catch it easily. They then share a drink and dedicate it to Lester's dead dog, Chuck. Lester then asks Don's opinion on Revival Day, and this is when Don decides to share a story that has been passed down to his people through generations. He tells Lester about Nanabojo, the great hero who created this world. Nanabojo decided to tour his creation to check out his handiwork and realized that he did a pretty good job. However, despite this, Nanabojo knew something was missing, and this is when one night Nanabojo was visited by the Great Spirit Kitchi Manitou, who told him that he would find what he longed for the next day after crossing a great river that he shouldn't hesitate to cross. And so Nanabojo continued his journey the next day and indeed found what he was longing for across a river, a woman as beautiful as creation itself. Nanabojo hesitated to cross the raging river at first, but eventually overcame his fear and met what he longed for on the other side. The woman was a gift to Nanabojo from Kitchi Manitou, and the two fell in love instantly. Their children were humans, but when Nanabojo realized that his children would grow old and die, unlike him, he was devastated. He fell down to his knees and questioned the Great Spirit about this atrocity, who revealed that things turned out this way because he hesitated to cross the river, and he did not do as he was told. The point of this story is that Don believes that the Great Spirit never goes back on what he does, which is why, according to him, Revival Day isn't an act of God, it is an act of man. This story is contrasted by Rhodey and Em jumping into the river once again, and once out of it, they get naked and make out on its banks. That night, around 9 p.m, Dana is informed by Puig that they have found traces of human tissue in the victim's body. The victim was Eric Koziol, the owner of the meat processing plant, and he wasn't a reviver, only someone who was also consuming the meat out of Wau that he was smuggling. She then talks to her dad and is glad to find out that Cooper hasn't mentioned the glowing man yet. Sheriff Wayne thinks that everything is all right with Cooper, completely unaware that his grandson, at this very instant, is packing and preparing to run away from the house. Dana continues to talk with her father, but gasps when she sees what her son has been telling her about all this while. One of the spirits is here in New York, and it is currently stalking someone on the roof in front of her. Revival, Volume 4, Escape to Wisconsin, Issue number 22. Dinner is served. Em and Rhodey are sleeping with each other, and when they make up to make love again, Em ends up confessing that she likes it when Rhodey is a little rough. That morning, Lester's plan comes to fruition, and the spirit gets trapped in the dream catcher. Out of sheer frustration and his hurt ego, Lester beats it over and over again, using the flesh whip, while Don rolls his eyes in disgust. Seeing how the ritual is being used by Lester just to to exact his revenge, he decides to reveal to him that the whip won't kill the spirit. To exact his vengeance, they have to send it back. This is our first glimpse into Lester's manic state, how he thinks he is above everyone else and how he is obsessed with being in peak physical state at all times. At 8 AM, we see Dana meeting with Agent Poig, and while telling him about how she was obsessing over the words "oh dollar, oh," we see that in actuality, she tried chasing the ghost she saw on the rooftop to no avail. She also confesses that not believing her son about the glowing man has been weighing on her since last night. She then distracts herself by staring at the $0 signs she has scribbled on her notepad, and in this moment of clarity, she ends up realizing that these might be Greek letters instead, specifically Omega Sigma Omega. Puig instantly connects the dots and tells her about Omega Sigma Omicron, a secret society of the Wall Street 1% that was exposed by a reporter named Fields before Revival Day. Dana quickly begins to leave the office because she knows that society is tying up loose ends to cover their tracks. The first was their meat supplier, and now it's going to be Fields, the reporter who revealed their existence to the world. We then see Ibrahim visiting Rose Blackdeer for a reading, and she offers him some tea while reading the lines on his palms. She talks about his past first, and continues to fill his cup when he finishes it. When she gets to his future, we see her eyes glow red, and it's clear that she has hypnotized him. Ibrahim begins to feel that it's raining indoors, and then he tells her all about the CDC facility that is hiding in plain sight in Marathon City. He tells her about Jordan and how she runs into the locked door over and over again, as well as the comatose John Doe, and recites the song he regularly sings. As Ibrahim repeats the words, there is a look of recognition on Rose's face, and for a moment it seems that John Doe speaks through him and calls Rose a bitch. Rose chides him and orders Ibrahim to go home, and he does as he's told. Dana and Poig, meanwhile, reach Fields' apartment, and as expected, he isn't picking up his phone. Poig decides to try the front door while Dana blocks the back alley with the car. Dana calls her father while parking the car in the back alley, but a man falls on it instantly and crashes through the front windshield. This is a Field, and in his dying moments, he says that he was promised immortality, but he feels death coming for him. Seconds later, his entire body is engulfed in flames. Dana looks towards the fire escape and, as expected, spots the suspected culprit, Anders Hine. Anders greets her with a maniacal smile. However, he is quickly forced to flee when the spirit Dana saw last night shows up behind her. The spirit is repeating Anders' words from before. How will the next generation thrive if the old generation doesn't die? The spirit rushes towards him and passes through Dana, which causes her to pass out. Anders Hine runs away while being chased by it as Poig arrives on the scene to rescue Dana. In Wau, M thinks she has found normalcy with Rhodey, but this is when he reveals his passion to her. He records videos of mutilating himself in a gimp mask while performing sexual acts for his viewers on the internet. M is horrified by this revelation and realizes that this is what Rhodey thinks she meant by being a little rough. Ibrahim, meanwhile, discovers that Rose drugged him using peyote, and it's the reason why he hallucinated during the reading. He informs a mysterious entity about this incident, who promises to take care of the matter, but informs Ramin that there will be repercussions because he has exposed the location of their secret facility. Meanwhile, M frantically gathers her clothes to leave Rhodey, only to realize that he recorded them having sex the day before secretly. M realizes that he was just using her for views and grabs him by the throat. However, her health has been deteriorating at a rapid rate, and she ends up vomiting blood before eventually running away. Around 4 PM, we see Sheriff Wayne checking in on Cooper's homeroom teacher because he has been waiting for him for over an hour, but Cooper never showed up, and this is when the teacher reveals that Cooper left on his own because she didn't know Wayne was picking him up. Wayne spots Cooper's drawing from today and his wish to see the octopus, and he already knows that Cooper is headed to meet with Holt. He leaves, and we see Cooper wandering through the woods with a map in his hand. Dana, meanwhile, has managed to find the location of the secret society, and it is the Mount Argus Hotel. We then see obnoxious rich people gathered for a dinner party, only to realize that the meal is Anders Hine and his flesh, and that he has volunteered to feed them today. Revival, Volume 4, Escape to Wisconsin, Issue number 23, Legacy for Future Generations. Em is having her regular nightmare again, only this time the stag in her dream is dead, and when she tries to check in on it, a mysterious man wielding a crowbar hits her on the head and kills her just like the stag. Em's blood flowing in the river is paralleled by her bleeding in the shower all alone. Her father tries to call her, but Em isn't strong enough to retrieve her cell phone after accidentally dropping it to answer the call. She continues to bleed while calling out for her dad, and this is when we see Cooper navigating his way alone through the woods by using a spool of string. He runs out of thread, and this is when one of the ghosts shows up, demanding to know where the baby is. Cooper begins running away frantically and ends up losing his backpack when it gets stuck in a tree. He ends up running onto the road and almost getting hit by a car. This is when Wayne shows up on Holt's property demanding to see his grandson, and though Holt tries to joke around at first, when Wayne shoves his revolver under his chin, Holt quickly shuts up. Dinah, meanwhile, rushes into the Argus Hotel as soon as the car parks, as the rich continue to feast on Anders's body in the dining room. Agent Poig follows her and orders Agent Fredrickson to call in for backup, including the NYPD and the fire department. The rich continue eating, and this is when one of the women sexualizes the entire process and demands to eat his eye. However, when she goes to pluck it out, Anders opens his eye and reveals that he is still alive. Cooper, meanwhile, begs for his life as he watches someone walk out of the car headlights, thinking of them as another one of the ghosts. But this is a human, and Cooper doesn't realize it yet. But this is May Tao. Dana and Puig, meanwhile, barge into the dining room and hold everyone at gunpoint, only to realize that one of the women has collapsed to the floor and is choking out while Anders Hines is nowhere to be seen. The rich tell Dana and Puig that Anders fled towards the roof, and Dana sprints after him while leaving Puig to deal with the situation in the dining room. She reaches the roof and watches a naked Anders with missing pieces of flesh standing at the edge of the roof. Anders addresses Dana happily and reveals that he offered his flesh willingly because he wanted to teach the world a lesson about entitlement. According to him, nowadays, everyone feels entitled to everything, just like these rich people thought they deserved immortality at the cost of the revivers. We then see everyone puking and choking out in the dining room below, and Anders finally reveals that he has been ingesting dimethyl mercury for the past few weeks so that he could poison the rich. Dana holds a gun to Anders's face, but without a care in the world, he walks towards her and reminds Dana that this is another lesson to the world, just like the one he taught in Wau about privilege. He then reveals that in order to track down these rich people, he was forced to trace the reviver flesh supply back to Wau, and this is when he discovered that the Czech brothers had been murdered. Anders now wants to know how and who murdered the Czech brothers, and he is going to find it out the old-fashioned way. He grabs Dana and kisses her to learn the truth. And this is when we see Lester and Don performing a ceremony to free the spirit that they captured in the dream catchers. Don continues to conduct the ritual, but as the baby spirit is absorbed by the dream catcher, Lester begins to cry because he has seemingly realized a truth that is yet to be revealed to us. Cooper, meanwhile, is now inside May's car, and the two of them bond over the fact that both of them are pissed off at life. Wayne, meanwhile, is still holding Holt at gunpoint, and upon learning that Cooper isn't in his garage to see the octopus, he puts two and two together and realizes that his grandson is lost in the woods. This is when Wayne lashes out and finally lays it out for Holt. To him, Holt is nothing but a disgruntled old man who likes to take out his anger on anything and everything that goes against his values, including immigrants and the government. He likes to carry and wave guns around, not because he is entitled, but because he is scared. In reality, Edmund is a failed filmmaker who at the peak of his career managed to create a B-grade monster flick that is still made fun of by newer generations. Edmund is a failed human being. He failed in his career, failed in life, and failed at love. That's his legacy to the world, a legacy all of them could frankly do without. He then orders Holt to get up and walk out of the garage as we see Wayne pour gasoline all over the garage. May and Cooper, meanwhile, continue to talk, and we learn that Cooper hates that nobody believes him about the glowing man. Everyone thinks he is a dumb kid, while he is not. May then tells him Blaine's story while keeping his identity anonymous, how no one believed him when something bad happened to him when he was a kid, and all the things he ended up doing throughout his life to get back at the world. She tells him that she knows why he ran away, to get his family's attention, but reminds him how such actions could harm him and then decides to call Sheriff Wayne so that he can be rescued. May is drunk and she knows that she might get arrested for driving while under the influence, but Cooper's future matters to her more. Moreover, she knows Dinah and knows how much she loves M, and May is sure that his mother would give her life for him. Anders, meanwhile, has let Dinah go as he processes all that he has learnt. M is a reviver. She murdered the Czech brothers, and Dinah helped her cover everything up. Anders uses this against Dinah and threatens to reveal everything to the police if she tries to get him arrested. If she wants the murders to be a secret, if she wants to save her sister, then Dinah needs to set Anders free, so that he can continue teaching lessons to the world about values he thinks are important. He then tells her about the spirit, how it followed him from Wau to New York, which finally made Anders realise that the ghosts in the woods weren't connected to Wau, but the people of Wau. He then gets philosophical and paints a picture of loneliness and belonging that he has felt ever since he was revived. That feeling has been hounding him a lot today, and Anders thinks that it's because he consumed Dana's memories. However, Dana shoots him in the kneecaps and reveals that the loneliness he has been feeling is the lack of the spirit that left his body. This is when Anders's ghost shows up on the rooftop, asks the question that it has been repeating all this while. How will the next generation thrive if the old one doesn't die? And then the spirit enters his mouth as Dana expresses his distaste for the old man because he was given a second chance at life and he blew it. The police show up the next minute, only to find Dinah out of breath and Anders's burning corpse on the roof. In Wau, Holt watches his garage and past go up in flames, while in the background Wayne picks up May's call and realises that she has found Cooper. We then get an ominous shot of an abandoned cabin and restaurant where whatever Edmund has been planning is supposedly brewing. May, meanwhile, visits Blaine in the hospital, forgives him for all his crimes, and decides to take a walk with him. Blaine is moved by this gesture, and it seems that he may finally change his ways. Dana finally reaches the central Wisconsin airport the next morning, and Cooper runs into her arms as soon as he lays his eyes on her. He also reveals that he'd rather stay with his mother than his father, especially because Derek's place stinks a lot. Back at the medical examiner's office, Ibrahim apologizes for conducting a self-drug test, only for the senior examiner to forgive him and reveal that Rose Blackdeer's corpse came in for autopsy this morning. Ibrahim is horrified and realizes that this is what the man on the other end of the call meant by consequences. Holt walks back into his home after his garage is completely destroyed. He chuckles and claims that the fascist sheriff is yet to see what he plans on leaving as his legacy. This is when we see refugees entering the quarantine through a secret hidden tunnel. Don, meanwhile, shows up to check on Lester, only to find that he hasn't returned from the woods yet. Meanwhile, Em wakes up, only to find that there is something wrong with her abdomen. Lester is crying near the dream catcher where the spirit used to be, while claiming he finally realised that the baby spirit simply wanted to live. He too simply wanted to live. This is juxtaposed by Em realising that she is pregnant as a baby's glowing hand pokes out of her belly. Revival, Volume 5, Gathering of Waters, Issue number 24, The Trade of Freedom. We see Christians who believe revival to be an act of God, reciting passages from the Bible, while a mother dips her baby in the river, hoping that his ailments will be washed away. However, this is when a dead stag jumps out of the water and begins running towards them, and all of them think that instead of summoning God's will, they ended up summoning Satan's wrath because of their selfish desires. The old man who is reciting the passages tries to save the mother and the child, only to then get stabbed in the eye by the stag's antlers. They are eventually saved by the sheriff, and Ibrahim. Wayne is forced to shoot the stag in the head until its nervous system is destroyed. Despite feeling for the refugees, Sheriff Wayne is forced to round them up and ship them away. Lester, meanwhile, is apologising to Bonnie at the police station for not contacting her after their date on Valentine's Day. And this is when Dana shows up, and we see that everyone in town is jealous of her because she got to go out of the quarantine for 2 days. Sheriff Wayne shows up and orders Dana into the conference room for an emergency RCAP meeting. At the CDC facility in Marathon City, Dr. Emil Amherst conducts a regular check on the 3 revivers that they have detained, and we learn that Jordan has calmed down after she has been getting a heavy dose of aripiprazole and has begun drawing instead of banging her head again and again against the locked door. John Doe continues to pretend that he is in a comatose state, while Arlene Dittman is being kept heavily dosed on opioids due to her condition. Her teeth still continue to grow endlessly, and the ones that fall out are being hidden by her in the air vent in her room. We then see that Jordan's dad has finally decided to do something about his daughter's imprisonment, but unfortunately, he has decided to divulge the facility's location to Edmund Holt. Holt has Jordan's father believing that they have a fascist government and that they need to fight back. Meanwhile, in her dorm room, she is surrounded by pregnancy tests as she struggles to accept the fact that she is pregnant. The baby is likely Aaron's, as we see them sleep together once again after Aaron had tried to break up with her in a motel room on Christmas Eve, a week before the revival day. She then gets a call from Rhodey, and when she doesn't pick up his call, we see that he reacts violently and throws the phone out of his trailer window while slicing his arm. His mother weeps as she grapples with her son's self-mutilating nature, and this is when we see Sheriff Wayne briefing Ibrahim and Dana on the recent illegal refugee trade being run by someone in the town. The trip is booked online, paid in cash, and the people who smuggle refugees into Wau always keep their faces hidden. These people believe that the heavy water has healing properties, just like the stories told in the Bible, and though they thought this wasn't the case, after the encounter with the dead stag today, Ibrahim is having second thoughts. The deer might have been killed during the hunting season. It ended up stumbling into the water and froze, and now that the water is thawing, it was reanimated. The only thing they know is that there's a lot to learn, which is why Ibrahim is going to have the stag's body examined ASAP. Rhodey, meanwhile, has decided to record a new self-mutilation video for his viewers. This time, there is going to be no prelude of sexualization. He is going to get to the mutilation straight away until he has ripped out every part of himself that doesn't remind him of her. However, before he can get started, his trailer is swarmed by federal soldiers who quickly take him into custody. Ramin, meanwhile, discusses religion, Burke, and how he is over his head with his ex, Ami, when Dana shows up to his room and kisses him. We also learn that Derek is allowed to have Cooper for only 1 day a week. On the other side of town, Don is attacked by the mysterious John Doe, who is once again out of captivity. Don recognizes the man's voice, and it's someone named Jesse. Once he has killed Don, Jesse takes a look at today's newspaper, only to realize that Rose is dead, and her death has been ruled a suicide. Jesse mourns Rose's death, and it is revealed that she was his daughter. Rhodey, meanwhile, continues to hurt himself in custody, thinking that there will be repercussions for the soldiers who have captured him. But when they reveal that it was his mother who had handed him over to them for his self-mutilation and deteriorating psyche, Rhodey is too stunned and is forced to go with the flow. We then see that the refugee smuggling ring is being run by Edmund Holt and his men, and he is using the refugees to smuggle in material that would allow him to create a bomb. Revival Volume 5, Gathering of Waters, issue number 25. It only gets complicated. We see one of the guards on a smoke break outside. After reporting to his senior that he will be back in a minute, we see him make a call to a mysterious man, and we learn that this soldier is being paid to let Jesse out of the facility whenever needed. He is usually back before the rounds, but this time, he hasn't come back, and the soldier is scared because he might lose his job over this. However, this is when every man protecting the facility is informed that the front gate is being attacked, and we see that Jeannie Gorski and her cult of revivers are here to rescue their captive brethren. We then see May wake up from her sleep after Mrs. Vang's dog farts in her face, and when she goes to the washroom, she finds Em already waiting for her. Em is crying and is here to ask May's help to find Aaron because she wants to inform him about the baby, and that she doesn't plan on seeing this pregnancy through. Sheriff Wayne and Mayor Ken butt heads at the border after sending away the recent batch of people that crossed the border. This is when Wayne gets an anonymous call that informs him of what's going on at the secret CDC facility. Meanwhile, Dana and Ibrahim are talking over the phone, planning a date, when Dana discovers dead toads in her washing machine. Cooper is to blame for this because he tries to save them before they are frozen again. She orders Cooper back into the home, and this is when Ibrahim informs her that the R-Cat has been summoned by her dad, and they will be informed of the destination on the way. Wayne shows up at the facility, and upon discovering that the CDC already has an internment camp that he was totally against, he screams angrily and threatens to arrest everyone. We see Edmund Holt and Jordan's father keeping an eye on all of this from afar, and learn that all of this has been planned by Holt. Holt told Jeannie and her cult about the facility, and he was the one who anonymously called Sheriff Wayne. We then see Jesse attending his daughter's daughter's funeral when suddenly a mysterious man subdues him and orders him to continue the killings. Jesse's only incentive for doing the job was to save his daughter, but there is another thing that he wants: permanent death. And that is something the man promises to give Jesse once their plans have come to fruition. Sheriff Wayne and the CDC liaison butt heads, and this is when Dana and Ibrahim show up to the scene. A fight between the officers and the soldiers breaks out, and this is when Dana learns that Ibrahim kept the facility's existence hidden from her while she trusted him enough to tell him about M. Dana's trust is broken, and she begins to wonder what else Ibrahim is hiding from her. The fight continues, and the officer who is in cahoots with Jesse uses this opportunity to run away. Jeannie, meanwhile, has her fellow revivers nail her to the cross like Jesus as a show of defiance because they know that the soldiers can't kill them even if they wanted to. The soldier runs through the facility and helps Jesse into his room. However, when Jesse threatens to kill the soldier once the job is done, the soldier stabs a needle into his neck and drugs him while telling him that he has been fired. Jesse tries to fight back but falls unconscious rapidly, and this is when we see May Tao agreeing to help M find Aaron. She has brought someone to help them, but when M realizes it is Blaine, she lunges at him. Revival Volume 5, Gathering of Waters, Issue number 26. Redemption. Martha attacks Blaine as if her life depends on it. Having not fully recovered, Blaine isn't able to fight back, but before M can kill him, May jumps in and tries to make her see that Blaine has changed, but M doesn't believe her. Instead, she throws May away and picks up Blaine to beat him to a pulp. This is when Blaine begins confessing, and M realizes that just like herself, he is in search of redemption, and this makes her stop dead in her tracks. Blaine continues confessing, and M finally realizes that they both have been battling their own demons, and if their pasts weren't so different, they would be the same person. This was a few hours ago, because right now, M and Blaine are ransacking Aaron's apartment for clues. May is on the call with them, and this is when she informs them that Nithya is on her way home, and they have 10 minutes to get out. M tells Blaine that they need to leave. But before leaving, he spots a peculiar book named Banks of the Broken Creek. This book is odd compared to the rest of Aaron's collection because he's neither an outdoor man nor into fishing, so Blaine makes sure to photograph the book. At the town hall, meanwhile, Sheriff Wayne and the CDC representative continue butting heads while Mayor Ken does his best to defuse the situation. It's clear that the CDC representative has the upper hand when it comes to legality, but Wayne is morally right to fight for the citizens he is supposed to protect. The CDC even blames the police for starting the petty fight when, in fact, the first punch was thrown by one of the soldiers. Ultimately, Ken manages to defuse the situation at the cost of imprisoning Jeannie Gorski and her cult for only a day to understand their motives. This is something both Wayne and the CDC representative can agree on, and so they decide to talk it out the next day. Once the discussion is over, Dana asks her father for a ride instead of going back with Ibrahim because he lied to her. Once they are gone, Ken reveals his disdain for cypresses, and this is when Ramin realizes how complicated this whole situation is. Wayne drives his daughter to her place, completely unaware that one of Holt's men is keeping a close eye on them. On the way back, Dana's father emphasizes how important it is for their family to stick together right now, and then reveals that he already knows that Ramin betrayed her by keeping the CDC facility a secret. In that moment, Wayne decides to be vulnerable, and he tells Dana about the night Cooper ran away after Holt managed to lure him with the octopus in his garage. Her father says that he hid this because Dana already had too much on her plate after the incident in New York, and Dana confesses that he was right in hiding this event until now. They hug, and Wayne drops Dana off at her house. Though Dana contemplates whether she should tell her dad the truth or not, she ultimately decides against it. When she gets inside, she screams her guts out because she knows she should tell her father the truth, but she can't. Em and May, meanwhile, are at Blaine's garage as Em reminisces about the time she stabbed Blaine in the leg with a sharp piece of wood. May snaps Em out of her memory, and when Em wonders if her baby is dead as well, just like her, May hugs and reassures her that all she needs to do for now is focus on the future. No matter what happens, May is going to be there for her because she knows what it's like going through an abortion all by yourself. It's the reason Em approached May in the first place. They then go back into the garage, and Blaine reveals that he has managed to piece things together. And Aaron's book, Banks of the Broken Creek, is a big part of it. He used the image to triangulate a location based on the local map, and after some digging, he revealed that the cover of the book leads to the Silver Creek grist mill. At Derek's home, meanwhile, we see that Dana has decided to let Cooper stay with him, and Derek uses this opportunity to once again poison Cooper against her because she failed to pick him up. Dana, however, is consumed by revenge, and she is currently spying on Edmund Holt because she wants to make him pay for trying to get her son involved in their feud. At the Marathon County Jail, we see Jeannie playing X and O's with one of the revivers using her own blood, while explaining that if you want to win at a game, you need to be willing to sacrifice a little. Revival Volume 5, Gathering of Waters, issue number 27, Back from the Dead. Dana imagines ambushing Edmund Holt while he goes through his regular routine. She imagines handing him a gun so she can frame a murder in self-defense. But ultimately, she doesn't act on her instincts because she can't bear the thought of murdering him in cold blood. She then watches Holt bring in the supplies for his homemade bomb, and this tells him that he is planning something big when he overhears his conversation with someone over the phone. Out of nowhere, Holt turns around and shoots in her direction, and this forces her to sprint away frantically. Unfortunately, Dana ends up falling into a hidden stash, and she loses her gun in the process. May, Em and Blaine, meanwhile, are trekking to the grist mill after getting their snowmobile stuck in the thawing ice. And this is when it is revealed to us that Holt was trying to shoot one of the red squirrels on his property, and he didn't even know that Dana was hiding there. But now that she has fallen into the pit he dug decades ago, he thanks her for finding his stash and orders her to hand over her gun if she wants to live. We then see Mayor Dillish meeting with Jeannie because she is meant to be the public face of the revivers, and the rest of them are to be imprisoned until further notice. Jeannie agrees to this deal because, in her deluded religious reality, she simply came back from the dead to serve just like God intended. May, Blaine and Em reach the gristmill, and Blaine stupidly tries to wade through a pond to get inside. However, he quickly realizes that this was a bad idea because the water is dead and awfully warm. The next second, he is attacked by a reviver fish, and though May tries to get him to swim to the shore, Em knows that she will be forced to jump in and save the day. Em dives into the water, grabs Blaine before he is eaten alive, and then carries him out. She crushes one of the fish in her hand, and when it comes back to life, all of them realize that even the animals are affected by the events of Revival Day. Edmund Holt, meanwhile, drinks vodka while looking over the town skyline and telling Dana why he decided to settle here in this quaint town. It's because the world never understood him or his stories. But now that outside forces have decided to invade his quaint retirement haven, Edmund is forced to take things into his own hands. His truck is loaded with his homemade explosives, and tied up in one of the barrels is Dana with her mouth taped. Blaine shivers furiously inside the grist mill as Em discovers a small stack of human teeth on the floor. May then discovers bubbles coming up from the nearby well, and when she looks inside, she spots a pair of boots sticking out of the water. It's 11 p.m. now, and though Ramin wants to drink the night away, he is informed by the bartender that he has been getting the stink eye from the white people all night, and it might be best to call it a night. He agrees and leaves. However, there is already an armed gunman waiting for him in the car when he gets inside. Em pulls the unknown body out of the water, but she already knows who it is. However, she doesn't have the heart to look at his face. Blaine decides to do it himself, only to discover that Aaron is still alive and now looks like a monster. Revival, Volume 5, Gathering of Waters, issue number 28, Stitches. Aaron is reciting one of his poems after coming out of the water as we see Dana helplessly trapped in one of the barrels. We then see Em figure out that Aaron is not a reviver, but was being revived again and again by the water as some sort of torture. Blaine tries to put him out of his misery, but May stops him because they can figure out the truth now that he is alive. Ken, meanwhile, checks in on his wife that night, who pretends to be okay, but in fact, she is trying to figure out a way to kill herself once and for all by ripping open one of the stitches in her torso. We then see that the man who held Ibrahim at gunpoint was an FBI agent named Geis. This is the man Ramin reports to, and he was the one who killed Rose Blackdeer. But Agent Geis blames her death on Ibrahim because he slipped up and revealed the CDC's secret facility location to her. At the Grist mill, meanwhile, the trio realizes that Aaron can't speak full sentences, and this is when M decides to kiss him to learn the truth. In Aaron's memories, M sees him traveling through the Ganges in India when his guide told him about a secret location where the dead came back to life after a blood ritual, a place called Tuti Krika. While in Wau decades later, Aaron figured out that the Grist mill's location was similar to the one in India and could be used to carry out the same ritual, which requires a murder. He didn't want to conduct this ritual, but some other mysterious man was forcing Aaron to look into these matters. But before M can see the man's face, a catfish explodes through his head in the vision and in the real world. M spits out a catfish and pukes water because one was in Aaron's stomach all this while. Aaron, with his remaining mind, decides to kill himself by jumping in the water again. However, M tries to stop him, but this is when his body begins to combust. Desperate to regain her love, M reveals that she is pregnant, and this is when Blaine learns why she wanted to find Aaron in the first place. M pushes herself into the well with Aaron in an attempt to save him, as May and Blaine watch all the fish in the pond outside combust instantly. They realize that the entire mill is about to burn down, and Blaine forces May to escape with him and to leave M behind because she made her choice. Holt, meanwhile, is at Hammond Fisher's property, and he reveals to Ham that everything is going according to plan. He drove the truck through the town to lure the authorities to them. However, when Hammond learns that he has kidnapped Dana, Holt shoots him in the head. According to Edmund, the story of his life is writing itself now when Dana showed up at his property, and he can't stop that now. Aaron, meanwhile, is momentarily himself again in the water, but when he tries to kiss M once again, his entire face goes up in flames and he disintegrates instantly. May and Blaine narrowly escape the fire, and as Blaine looks back, he begins to recount biblical scriptures as M exits the water angrily. We then see Edmund Holt holding Dana at gunpoint while boasting that his plan is coming to fruition, while simultaneously, Agent Geis and Ibrahim track their steps through the woods. On the next page, Jeannie Gorski is taken into custody. Geis and Ibrahim discover Hammond's dead body. The CDC representative musters his courage to deceive the world, and Ken's wife Diane gets ready to do the unthinkable. Revival, Volume 5, Gathering of Waters, Issue number 29, The Big Story. The comic starts by comparing the border of Wau with the stitches on M's hoodie, as well as the stitches on Diane's body. M wakes up in the middle of the night beside May, and though she tries to remind M that everything is fine, we see her get out of bed and walk away. May then gets a call from her boss, asking her to cover the press conference at the town hall, but she refuses the request because she hasn't slept for 2 days. After the call, May decides to check on M, only for Blaine to reveal that she's gone. Blaine himself is scared out of his boots and is sitting on the floor in a salt circle. We then see Sheriff Wayne pacifying the CDC and FBI representatives as they wait for Mayor Ken, only to then realise that his old friend is about to put on a show for the press. We then see Ken Dillish walk in boisterously, greet the people at the meeting, and then address the press. Ken confesses that though things may have seemed rosy on the surface, behind the curtains, he and the authorities have been keeping the revivers quarantined in Wau so that they aren't taken away and tested on by the authorities. But he is confessing this today because he doesn't want the revivers to be marginalised, and that's because he got back someone he dearly loved on Revival Day, his wife. This is when Diane joins the conversation, and the rest of the representatives realise that they have all been played by Ken. Meanwhile, at Hammond Fisher's farm, Holt threatens to shoot Dana if the authorities don't come out of the woods, and this is when Agent Geis is forced to show himself. He manages to distract Holt while listening to his deranged government conspiracy theories. However, when he threatens to take Dana's life once again, Ibrahim rushes out of the woods and shoots Holt dead. At the town hall, Ken introduces his wife, and now it's time for her to take the stage. He introduces her as if it's an angel that has come back to life, but in reality, Diane looks like a walking corpse. Ramin, meanwhile, removes the tape from Dana's mouth only to learn that Holt had something big planned. Dana wanted him to reveal his plans because the drums in the back of his truck are completely empty. This is when she realizes that Holt plans to bomb the town hall, as simultaneously we see the FBI representative forcing the CDC representative to accept defeat. Diane takes the stage, and introduces herself as a reviver, tells the world about how they are different and how she used to suffer from depression while she was alive. But when she came back from the dead, she realized that she was now trapped in a prison on Earth. This declaration is met by looks of confusion from the reporters and her husband. She then begins to say how her soul always itched to leave her body, but after coming back from the dead, she realized that her soul was no longer with her. With every word, Diane is looking more and more deranged. She begins to remove her shirt and open up the stitches in her chest, and this is when Jeannie Gorski realizes what is going on. She tries to warn everyone, but the next second Diane opens her chest while Jeannie launches herself and the sheriff towards the window. Diane reveals that there is a bomb planted inside her, and as she is blasted into nothingness, so is the entire town hall and the people in it with her. Jeannie, however, manages to fall out of the window with the sheriff as Dana desperately tries to call him. Holt, meanwhile, passes away by claiming that his mission has been fulfilled and that he is the hero. The reporters outside begin to speculate while Sheriff Wayne thanks Jeannie for saving his life. She forces one of the reporters to lift her up on camera, and she then heads back into the burning building to save as many people as possible. Diane has given their kind a bad name, and so Jeannie is now doing everything she can to better the Revivers' reputation. The reporters quickly turn on their cameras and begin documenting the Revivers saving people, and as Jeannie saves the CDC representative, we see him view her as an angel sent by God, and finally, believe in the Revivers. She then goes to Ken Dillish, who is about to die, and keeps him company in his last moments. May watches the scenes from the town hall on TV, only to be approached by Blaine ominously, who seems to blame her for making him help M, whom he considers to be the Antichrist. Dana reaches the town hall and frantically begins searching for her father, only to be stopped by M, who hugs her and tells her that their father is completely fine. We then see Mrs. Vang's dog barking frantically as Blaine tries to attack May. She, however, tells Blaine to snap out of his delusions because she looked into his past and knows what happened. His uncle, whom he thought was possessed, was actually a pedophile with a criminal history. His mother knew about it, but despite that, she let him stay with Blaine. He wasn't possessed. He was an actual life monster. She pushed Blaine away and tries to call the police, but fails to notice Blaine slowly limping towards her with his crutch in hand, while still delving into his delusions and thinking that May coerced him into helping Satan, just like the snake tempted Eve at the beginning of creation. We then see the Revivers walk back into the fire after saving everyone as an act of selfless sacrifice for the lives that were lost today, and the Cypress family hugging each other in the rain while May's lifeless body is being licked by Mrs. Vang's dachshund, as M remembers how May always wanted to break a big story to become the best reporter in Wau. Revival Volume 6, The Loyal Sons and Daughters, Issue number 30, The Beginning of Revenge. In the aftermath of the blast, we see that 7 people died in the explosion, including Ken and Diane. Diane is the primary suspect, but the media has also been told that she was aided by Edmund Holt, who is a government conspiracy nut who is being hailed as a hero by the right-wingers. Military Governor Louise Cale has been assigned to Wau after Ken's death, and she will be assisting the Deputy Mayor, Ben Xiong. Cale has restrained and imprisoned all the Revivers at the CDC facility, which is now public and is called The Farm. May's murder has been made public, and Blaine Abel is the prime suspect who has been on the run ever since. The town of Wau is in chaos, and Agnes Check seems to be itching to take this chaos to the next level. She, just like Blaine, believes that Revival Day was an act of Satan. Her boys were trying to save her by chopping up the Revivers, which is why she is now taking things into her own hands. She is the one who is saving Blaine, and to her, he is the general of God's army on Earth that is going to fight these demons that have been sent back from the dead. Blaine claims to have seen the Babylon whore and to have killed the demon that was sent to tempt him, while in reality, he is talking about M and May. She drops off Blaine in the woods with a casserole and some propaganda flyers, and he is met by 2 soldiers from a new group of biblical fanatics that call themselves the Hunters of the Beast. And to them, Blaine is the holy grail of fighters against this tyranny. The 2 soldiers lead him to a hatch in the middle of nowhere, and we learn that the Hunters of the Beast have been hiding in hidden tunnels. The soldiers at the farm, meanwhile, have learned about the ghosts in the woods after catching the Revivers, and we see them using dream catchers to capture one. This captured spirit causes Jeannie to wake up from her sleep, screaming as it is hurt, and when she talks to Jordan about it, the kid tells her that they are never leaving this place, and Jordan's tone tells Jeannie that she might be right. Meanwhile, M goes to May's funeral, which is being held by Mrs. Vang, and realizes that the entire Hmong community is waiting for her to come back to life because she was the first one to witness the revivers. We then see Wayne Cypress putting up Ken's photo on the memorial outside the destroyed town hall. He then tries to tell Dana the truth about the night her mother died, but she implores him to focus on the future because they have a debriefing they need to attend. We then see a conversation between Agent Geiss and Ibrahim at his temporary hotel room, and by the information revealed, it seems someone named Omar, whom Ibrahim cares about, is being held in captivity, and it might be why he is working for the secret organization that employs Agent Geiss. Geiss then assigns Ibrahim to get to Blaine before he is captured by the local authorities because they believe he has evidence about what caused Revival Day. Both of them think that Blaine is a crazy demonologist, but they have reason to believe that he might have evidence, ever since they have been spying on him using drones. General Kale then debriefs the police department and ARCAT. She tells them about Agnes Czech's arrest, the flyers they found in her car, the Hunters of the Beast, and how they are going to arrest them all today and apprehend Blaine to restore justice in Warsaw. As the police leave, we see M following them in her car. The deputy mayor, Ben Cheong, is revealed to be a pushover and puppet for General Kale, and it is also revealed that her son, Jacob, has been moved to the local school. She is also informed that they have captured one of the ghosts, and she reveals that she plans to let it have one of the survivors to see what happens once the ghosts get what they want. We then see one of the hunters get ambushed by M as he spots the police heading for them, and although the officers try to draw them out by throwing tear gas in the tunnels, Blaine was already prepared for this with a ton of gas masks. Everybody armed with gas masks and guns decides to face off against the officers, and it's clear that this confrontation is going to be a bloodbath. Revival Volume 6, The Loyal Sons and Daughters, Issue number 31, The Monster Inside. Dana and her father, Wayne, are keeping a perimeter in the woods as they discuss Edmund's death, and we learn that Wayne believes that Holt committed suicide, and Dana hasn't told him the truth. At the farm, Rhodey has hung himself using bed sheets while trying to masturbate, and when soldiers come in to take him away for a special task. Blaine, meanwhile, escapes from the tunnels with Maria through a secret exit, believing that the two of them have escaped, only to be confronted by M, who scares the life out of Blaine. He tries to shoot her, but is unable to pull the trigger, and when Maria tries to save him, she gets slammed into a tree by M. This breaks her nose, and as Blaine gathers courage while reciting passages from the Bible, M walks towards him, only to then be shot in the head. She recovers and continues towards him, only to then be shot a few dozen times by other members of Blaine's new cult. Blaine runs away like a coward as the men tower over M, wondering who she is and if she is the fated whore of Babylon. This is when she comes back to life, and the shock of it causes one of the soldiers to blow her brains out. The rest of the wannabe soldiers are horrified by this, but a minute later, M comes back to life and jumps on the guy who shot her. The other guys try to fight back, but quickly realise that M is unstoppable. M subdues them all, and this is when her baby kicks, and she smiles like a monster. We then see Rhodey being thrown into solitary confinement where the entire room is covered in salt. The ghost they had captured then approaches Rhodey and enters his body. General Kale observes this event and learns that although Rhodey's body temperature indicates that he is dead, his heart is still beating. Rhodey, meanwhile, experiences all of Jeannie's memories, lives through all her precious moments, and realises that when she came back from the dead, her husband broke up with her and refused to even kiss her because he thought she was undead and unnatural. The ghost escapes Rhodey's body seconds later, and when he comes back to life, he confesses his love for Jeannie, and somehow she hears him in her cell as they both cry blood. The officers, meanwhile, have apprehended 13 hunters of the blade, and Blaine is in the woods between the officers and Sheriff Wayne. Dana and her father decide to look for him, and Dana convinces him that they should split up to ensure that they can capture him in time. Agent Geiss and Ibrahim, meanwhile, are on their own search in the woods, and this is when Geiss begins to taunt and instigate Ibrahim. His words reveal that Omar is his brother and is currently in prison because he is the shoe bomber. Ami, in fact, is Omar's wife, and Ibrahim sleeping with her reveals that Ibrahim has his own set of flaws. The two begin fighting, and all of this was heard by Blaine, who seconds later is ambushed by M, who begins to strangle him while her face is covered in blood. This is when Dinah finds her and tries to get her sister to let Blaine go so that he can be arrested and brought to justice. But when Dana sees M's Em's face, she knows that the monster in her sister has been let out. Ultimately, Dinah is forced to threaten Em because she won't stop choking Blaine. Revival Volume 6, The Loyal Sons and Daughters, issue number 32, You're All I Have. This comic starts by showing us the events of 11 years ago when Dana was supposed to be babysitting Martha, but instead of that, she left Em alone in her room and went into the basement to do drugs and make love to Derek. Em did not like this because she wanted to spend time with her big sister, and when she found out what Dana was doing, she decided to tell her father because she was worried about her. Dana finds out about the call after the phone is knocked off the table, and Dinah's anger in this scene is contrasted by her anger in the present as she holds Em at gunpoint. Dana tries to stop Em, tries to make her see that she doesn't need to take the law into her own hands. She doesn't need to become a murderer because eventually their father will find out about her, and this is when Em lashes out. Because this has always been about Dana and her failing to protect her little sister, she doesn't want their father to find out that Dan is still a failure. Blaine tries to escape while Em is distracted, but she quickly steps on his wrist and breaks it. Their conversation is also being heard by Geis as Dana weeps and tries to tell Em that she did her best to find her killer. But to Em, that isn't the point. She doesn't want justice. She is better this way because she can take care of problems on her own. She begins to kick Blaine in the chest out of anger, and this is when we see Jeannie and Rhodey confessing their love to each other from the other side of the wall. When Jeannie kisses the wall as a gesture of kissing Rhodey, she tastes salt, and this is when Rhodey realizes what is going to happen. Rhodey tries to warn Jeannie and punch the wall, but by then it's too late. The ghost is let into her room, and the next thing you know, the spirit enters Jeannie's body and she goes up in flames. We then see General Kale indifferent about Jeannie's death, because in her book, she was already dead. To her, every reviver is already dead. Em continues to torture Blaine because she knows Em won't kill her. But this is when Geis pops out of the woods while covering his face with a gas mask and threatens to shoot and kill Dana if either of them moves. He helps Blaine escape, only to be shot in the shoulder by Sheriff Wayne from afar using a rifle. He then orders his officers to move in now that his daughters are safe. However, Em uses this chance to pick up Geis's gun and chase after Blaine. Em frantically runs after her. However, she ends up panicking and dropping her gun in the process. We then see Ibrahim get surprised by Maria, who seems to have given up on her cult and seems to just want to go home, and this is when the two of them are distracted by Em shooting Blaine in the neck a few feet behind them. As Blaine dies, he says, "I told him, she knows what you did, what you made me do. You're not her, you're just a girl." And for some reason, this scares Em. This is when she is thrown to the ground by Dana, who begins punching her because she is now a murderer. She blames Em for making her do this. However, this reminds them both of the time Dana beat Em 11 years ago when she was just a kid. Dana punched Em in the face because she snitched to their father about her, and even back then, innocently, Em had claimed that she snitched because she was worried about her, and in the present day, Em claims that she loves her. Dana's the only family that she still has. Officers rush in at this moment and drag Dana away, while Wayne Cypress holds Em in his arms, on the verge of tears. He holds his daughter's broken face. However, when he watches it heal in real time, he realizes that she is one of the revivers, and the implications of this dawn on him. Revival, Volume 6, The Loyal Sons and Daughters, issue number 33. Arrested. Em is sleeping soundly in her bed when her father's screaming wakes her up, and eventually, CDC soldiers storm into her room and arrest her because she is a reviver. She then goes through a psychological evaluation with Dr. Marina Lauro, while General Kale takes her own notes about Em in the background. The doctor focuses on Em's past, present and future, while General Kale is focused on the cause of her death. Meanwhile, Em has been fidgeting with the scar on her lip again and again. Kale and Lauro talk after the evaluation over a cup of coffee, and it is revealed that Lauro is excited to be here because she specializes in near-death experiences and is working on a theory. Kale says that she is working on a theory of her own as well, and then leaves the room. We then get a glimpse into General Kale's family and learn that her wife, Janae, is a travel and food writer. However, being stuck in Warsaw is harmful to her job. When their son Jacob shows up for dinner, we learn that the school is predominantly full of white Christian children who discriminate against him because of his mothers. We then see Em watching TV with Ross Patrick, who tried to use his status as a reviver to sell cars, which got him apprehended by the authorities pretty early on. She seems to tolerate him, and through General Kale's notes, we learn that she met Rhodey in the afternoon today and forgave him for his his mistakes. Rhodey was distraught over Jeannie's death, while also being torn between his love for her and Em. However, after this, Em was visibly disgusted by him touching her. During their meal, Cale noticed that Em had a history with Jordan, who blamed her for killing her soul, which meant that she could no longer die like the rest of the Revivors. When all of them gathered near the window to hear the call of their souls, Jordan blamed Em for forcing her to stay here on Earth, while in her opinion, they all should already be dead and burning in hell. And thus, by tonight, as Em watches TV, Cale has figured out that she might be their ringleader, and this is when Em provokes Arlene Dittman as she walks by. Coincidentally, this is when Dana arrives to see her. However, after Dittman bites off Em's nose, Dana isn't allowed to meet her. Cale finds the timing of this fight to be peculiar, but thinks nothing of it. That night, while she's making love to Janae, Louise stops midway, and we learn that Janae cheating on her was part of the reason why General Cale took this job in Wau. She goes back to the facility to distract herself, and we see Em sitting alone in her cell, remembering when Dana beat her to a pulp a few days ago and caused the scar near her lips. The General notices that her pen is missing, which she finds to be odd, but decides it's nothing. But this is when it is revealed that Em stole her pen, and she is now using a part of it to make sure that the scar on her lip doesn't heal over, because it was given to her by her sister. Revival, Volume 6, The Loyal Sons and Daughters, Issue number 34, Incentivized Operators. We now see Dana's perspective on the same day, and the first thing she did after reaching home was to tear down all the investigation evidence about Em's murder in her basement, while Em's blood still coats her fist. Dana then breaks down crying, and moments later is summoned to the hospital because her dad needs her. Wayne is sitting outside in the waiting area while Brent keeps an eye on Agent Geiss. When Dana reaches her father, she learns that Geiss had pancreatic cancer, which means that after that rifle wound, he won't be able to survive the night. Wayne knows he was just saving his daughters, but being responsible for someone's death is still weighing down on him. He then breaks down and begins talking about Martha and how he lost his daughter and never knew about it. Dana hugs him and confesses that she always knew about her mother. She found out that she died due to his mistake when she was 6 years old. She heard his and Ken's conversation on the phone, and it's the reason why Dana was a bitchy teenager, because it was her way of exacting revenge on her father. She blamed him for her mother's death, but things have changed now. She is older and a police officer now, and she knows things are different. She then reassures her father that they will find Em's murderer, and this is when the doctor informs her that Geiss wants to talk to her. When Dana heads inside, she confronts Geiss about his identity because they found multiple passports under different names in his possession. Geiss reveals that he works for the CIA and that Ibrahim is one of their incentivized operators because he is trying to save his brother Omar. Geiss then reveals that though he always followed his orders without questioning them after what happened in Rose Blackdeer's home, things changed. He reveals that when he went to her home that night, she was already waiting for him, and she said, "I won't let you use him anymore. You have to set them free. Set them all free." She then drugged him, and after Geiss woke up from his hallucination, Rose was already on the floor, dead beside him, and there in the room with him was her father, Jesse's ghost, which resembled his burnt physical form. The spirit entered his body while Rose, in her dying moments, sang the same song her father sang to ease Jordan in the farm. After that, when the spirit left his body, the key to Rose's shop was in his hand, and Rose was no more. He hands the key over to Dana, and with his dying words, he tells her that after the ghost entered his body, he knew that it was looking for an incentivized operator, just like the CIA. Dana walks outside and lies to her dad that Geiss forgave him for shooting him, and that night, she wears Em's signature hoodie that once belonged to her, and leaves the house to continue her investigation. Before leaving, she hugs Cooper and orders him to stay close to his grandfather and to look after him. Dana enters Rose's shop, discovers her photo with her father Jesse, and then opens the safe hidden behind an owl painting. Water and various photos spill out of it, including Aaron Weimer's book, Banks of the Broken Creek. She also figures out that Jesse isn't in a catatonic state and is, in fact, Aaron's killer, and this is when Geiss passes away. Dana heads to the farm and demands to see her sister, while Ibrahim is contacted by the CIA. This was moments before Arlene attacks Em, and we see Ibrahim is given Geiss's mission and ordered to take out Dana. Dana continues to try to force her way inside, while Em stitches up her face using the stolen pen. This is when one of the soldiers wakes Jesse from his coma again, and this time he is tasked to take out Em. Revival Volume 6, The The Loyal Sons and Daughters, issue number 35. You're all I've got. Dana has now brought all of the artifacts she found in Rose's shop to Grist Mill and is screaming for Jesse's ghost to come and find her. We then see that the farm has been renamed to the Riverside Care Facility. Martha is sleeping soundly, but Dr. Lauro is keeping a close eye on her because she heard Dana screaming that someone is coming to kill Em tonight. The officer beside her is the one who is in cahoots with Jesse, and so he convinces Dr. Lauro to leave the job to him because he is going to be here for the next 8 hours, and he can watch over her. He calls Dana a dumb officer because, despite being a part of RCAT, she never knew her sister was a reviver. And after this, Dr. Lauro reluctantly leaves to go work in her office. However, Jesse isn't in a catatonic state. He is awake and waiting for the right moment. Dana, meanwhile, manages to attract one of the ghosts after scratching her flesh. However, this isn't Jesse's ghost. This is Em's ghost, and this horrifies her. Em wakes up a few minutes later and notices that her cell door is open. She finds this odd, but before she can investigate it, Jesse grabs her from behind, uses garden shears to cut her back open and then tears out her heart. Em falls dead on the floor, and we see Em's ghost vanish into nothingness simultaneously. This is when Jesse's ghost shows up and says that he wants to join his daughter in the afterlife. It has been a few minutes, and Em's heart has now regenerated, and she has come back to life. However, this gave Jesse enough time to tie her to a tree and dig her grave. He plans to decapitate her and bury her body and head separately, which should keep her silent for the near future. Their conversation also reveals that he isn't employed by the CIA, but the man who created the revivers. He is blackmailing them and paying the soldier in the facility to make sure there are no loose ends, because this must remain a secret. Dana, meanwhile, frantically tries to lead Jesse's ghost to the facility and comes close to getting possessed by it before she swerves away. Jesse, meanwhile, is about to decapitate Em, but this is when Dana crashes her car into the fence of Riverside Care Facility and Jesse's ghost vanishes after thanking her. It then reunites with Jesse's body, and as he burns away, he tells Em that he couldn't kill her once before because she reminded him too much of his daughter. Before he burns away, she asks who murdered her, but all Jesse tells her is that it was the man who created them all. This is when the paid-off soldier shows up to complete the job and bury Martha. However, Dana shoots him in the face and saves her sister. The soldiers from the facility scour the woods as Captain Cale is informed of these events and that Martha and John Doe are missing. The next morning, everyone learns about the events from the news. However, according to them, one of the two escapees was Jeannie Gorski, while the other's identity is hidden. General Cale's conduct is also being called into question, as well as the fact that the revivers are still being held captive. We then see Dana and Em in a derelict motel room. Dana has dyed her hair blonde, and she convinces Em that they need to act now because whoever murdered her has now lost all his employed assassins, which means they are vulnerable and highly dangerous, which makes it imperative for them to find him now. Revival, Volume 6, Forward, issue number 36. In the summer sun, General Cale addresses the public again, and this time she reveals that it was Jeannie and Martha who escaped the facility. Her tone is more commanding and dictatorial, and she paints Jeannie and Martha as innocent women supposedly influenced and kidnapped by Dana. We then see her actively lying to Dr. Lauro, because when Lauro questions why her patient's childhood objects are being obtained by the facility, Cale denies the whole thing and chalks it up to the previous administration's fault, while in fact, she is actively monitoring a childhood object which is being used to lure and capture one of the spirits in the woods. Once captured, Cale decides to leave the room, and this is when Lauro asks her about the missing John Doe. Cale lies and says that he has been transferred to a medical facility, like she had suggested, to gain her trust, while in fact Cale's face tells us that she knows that Lauro is going to be a problem. The next morning, Lester goes out for a jog and then decides to ask Bonnie out for a date while making sure he gets every tidbit of information about Dana and Em. They are still missing, suspected to still be in the quarantine zone and deeply missed by their father and son. Lester then cheers up Bonnie and asks her out for a date tonight. We then see General Cale travelling out of the quarantine and into an Amish settlement where she stops outside a mysterious, lonely house occupied by what seems like a little girl. Her call with her wife reveals that Cale is visibly distressed and desperate to do anything to get hold of the situation. Nikki, meanwhile, is overworked at the strip club because 500 more soldiers have been brought into Wau to get a handle on the situation. Amy is enjoying the new attention and money, but Nikki, however, is concerned about what this might mean. We then see that only Cale is allowed into the household by the little girl, and as they head inside, she asks her about cartoons, because apparently she is no longer allowed to watch any. The little girl is Atlee, daughter of the assassin Weaver Fanny, the person Cale is here to meet, who is currently busy practicing her swordplay. Fanny tries to deny the job, but Cale manages to persuade her by painting Dana as the bad guy, and by saying that Martha is simply a pregnant 19-year-old who desperately needs their help. The job needs to be done by someone who is efficient and not loud and clumsy like her soldiers. Cale says that it's paramount they get Martha back. She needs to be under her control, because if the religious people learn that she is carrying a baby, it could mean disaster. Fanny decides to take up the job, and at night, we see Bonnie and Lester dancing their hearts out at the Rec Room bar, while Brent has a drink all by himself. Bonnie and Lester go back to his place to make love, and Bonnie is genuinely enamored by him. However, when Lester says that he can fix her, she realizes that he thinks she's fat. That's why it took him 2 months to ask her out again, and she is nothing but a new project to Lester. Bonnie is appalled by this because she is completely content in her own skin. She just wanted someone to spend life with, but now she thinks Lester needs to take a look at his life. He constantly exercises, peddles his workout routines, and focuses on physiques more than life itself. So what is it that Lester wants from his life now that he is so old? Lester is left speechless, and the next morning, when he goes out jogging, he realizes that life is futile, and when he stares down at his hands in the sun, he can see his bones through the skin. Revival, Volume 6, Forward, Issue number 37, What You Want versus What You Get. This comic shows us the dreams of various characters compared to their current reality. Nikki wanted to be an astronaut at this stage in her life, but in reality, she is now working tirelessly at a strip club for dumb jocks that keep throwing money at her. We then see a soldier named Gianni force Amy and Nikki to perform together. And though Nikki doesn't do this kind of thing due to Derek, the allure of so much money and the dream of leaving this town with Derek and Cooper once the quarantine is lifted is too much for her. So Nikki reluctantly ends up complying. We then see that Derek's dream was to still be married to Dana with his own tattoo parlor shop in Chicago, while trying for a second child. However, in reality, Derek is busy tattooing Gianni in his shed while he describes how his girlfriend orgasmed him in front of them all at the strip club. When it's time for payment, Gianni punches Derek in the gut because Gianni and Big Tina also work for Jimmy the Viking, apart from the military. Jimmy the Viking was Derek's old dealer, and this is payback for not being in touch ever since the quarantine started. Derek tries to fight back, but Gianni and Big Tina torture him and implore him to find a new way to distribute drugs in Wau to make Jimmy happy. They then leave, and we see that all Weaver Jeannie wanted in her life was to be accepted by her father and community, but all she got was the life of a lonely ninja assassin. She tracks Nikki as she goes back to Derek's place, and when she gets inside, we see Derek be an asshole to Nikki for performing with Amy today. Nikki tells him that it was just a show, a fantasy like every other fantasy that she sells every night, and he knew about her profession before they started dating. Derek continues being a prick, and Nikki hugs him and tells him that he did for them and their future. But this is when he misinterprets her and says that their relationship is simply another fantasy that Nikki is selling to him. Nikki slaps Derek and storms out. And this is when we see General Cale packing her stuff for the day. But before going home, she checks in on the ghost they captured today. This ghost is able to fight back and harm a few soldiers, but they are able to apprehend it eventually. Derek then imagines getting back at Gianni and Big Tina by feeding them to the zombie Czech brothers. But in reality, he is forced to make a deal with Jimmy the Viking, but he has a few conditions. He needs a bigger cut and a daily update on troop movements to avoid being captured by the military while smuggling the drugs. We then see Em and Dinah enjoying an over-the-top karaoke session in Brent's basement, and this is when Derek shows up and hands over the papers containing orders and troop movements for this week. Turns out, he is working for them, and he had an inclination that Jimmy would get in touch with him sooner rather than later. We then see that most of the revivers have been kept sedated ever since M's escape. Everyone except Jordan, because she is too little and constant sedation would harm her brain. We then see General Kale's dream, all of the ghosts captured in a single room. And this dream in fact has come true, because she always gets what she wants. Revival, Volume 6, Forward, Issue number 38, Kill the Bad Guy. We then see Cooper's latest comic, which depicts the dead coming back, the town having no superheroes, authorities forcing the revivers into an internment camp, Jordan in jail, and her aunt being separated from the family. It also depicts Dana shooting Krieger and helping M escape. Nikki was the one reading this comic, and though it's good to hope and stay in dreamland, she knows Cooper also needs to accept the truth. She tells him what the world thinks about her mother, and Cooper already knows this. He is being bullied at school for it. It's the reason why he has no friends lately. Nikki is the first one to read his comic. Cooper also fears losing everyone in his life because Derek is gone most of the time, and Dana and M are nowhere to be found. To reassure him, Nikki promises to send his comic to Jordan, seeing that she is his friend. The next morning, M wakes up from a nightmare where she was lying among a pile of bodies because the world was full of revivers. No one died, and all of them kept giving birth to more and more babies. She tells this to Dana, who is having a nightmare of her own. Dana is crying like a baby because she misses Cooper a lot. It's 7 a.m, and this would be the time she would be waking him up for school. M reassures her and even offers to surrender so Dana can see Cooper again. But this is when Dana remembers why they are doing this. They are doing this to find M's murderer. And Dana doesn't plan on giving up now. Their only lead is the soldier Dana shot, Carl Krieger. And this is when M noticed that whenever Dana starts feeling sad, she chooses anger instead and avoids the feeling. M is deep into her pregnancy now, deep enough that she can feel her baby's kicks. We then see Carl's personality surfacing with each passing day. She is on the call with her wife, Janai, and she is forcing her son, Jacob, to go to school, even though he is being racially discriminated against and bullied each day. This is when Dr. Laro confronts her because Rhodey is adamant that Jeannie Gorski was killed in custody and did not escape. She is also catching on to the tales about the men in the woods, which she, for now, thinks is a shared delusion between the revivers. Kale calls Rhodey crazy and dismisses Laro's inquiries and quickly leads her out of her office, only to then be shocked by Jordan behind her door. Turns out Jordan has been here all this while, and Kale instantly begins to lash out at Private Schechter for not guarding her office properly, while Dr. Laro does her best to remind Jordan why she shouldn't be here. Kale orders Jordan to be sent back to her cell, but this is when Laro and her butt heads, because she knows that Jordan needs to be in human contact. She can't talk to either the revivers or the soldiers, and there is no one her age to bond with at this facility. At her age, Jordan needs to socialise, and Kale reluctantly agrees. This is when Jordan reveals that, apart from the revivers, even the men in the woods have stopped talking to her. That night, we see Derek heading to the strip club. Nikki isn't here tonight, and Derek is here to meet Gianni and Big Tina. Gianni bullies Private Schechter out of a booth so that the three of them can occupy it. Derek is here to receive his shipment, and Jimmy the Viking is happy that he is on board. As they discuss business, we see that Nikki has brought Cooper to the Riverside facility to meet Jordan, and the two of them are busy reading Cooper's comics. Nikki and Dr. Laro discuss philosophy while the children play, and their conversation reveals that Laro suspects the entire human race is reassigning their priorities after realizing that the revivers can come back from the dead. It's like a near-death experience for everyone. As she discusses this theory, we see Wayne Cypress visiting his wife's grave, Ibrahim finding his faith and meeting with the Imam again, and Fanny King staring into the mirror while remembering her scars. We then see that Jordan is impressed by Cooper's skills and that she wants him to make her a comic. We then see Private Schechter breaking into Gianni's car to get back at him, only to discover that he has been smuggling patrol deployment schedules to someone outside the military. Cooper and Nikki then leave the facility, and we see that Jordan is more than impressed by her new comic. Dr. Laro asks if she can read it, but Jordan says that it is private and only for her new friends. The comic depicts Jordan's loneliness, how the revivers are imprisoned and so are the men in the woods. She relates to the caged ghosts and this comic is addressed to them. It shows the ghosts that if they want to be free, if they want to escape, they don't need to kill the Revivors, but instead the one responsible for all of this. We then see General Kale's dead body on the next panel, and the message is clear. Revival Volume 6, Forward, Issue number 39, Sacrifice. We then see Rhodey banging on his cell door, demanding to be let out, when suddenly one of the spirits manages to enter his room through the light bulb. Dr. Lauro and one of the nurses then discover that Jordan managed to stab one of the nurses in the neck with the drug she was about to be given and escaped. Dr. Lauro sprints away to find Jordan, who is currently opening Rhodey's cell using the incapacitated nurse's keycard. His spirit is about to enter his body and kill him, but this is when Lauro grabs his hand and pulls him out of the cell. Thankfully, the cell had salt poured across the entrance, which means the spirit is forced out of his body before he combusts. General Kale and Schechter arrive at the scene, and during this chaos, Jordan hands over her comic to Rhodey's spirit. Schechter shoves Jordan away and traps the spirit in Rhodey's cell, who instantly begins to attack General Kale because he believes that she tried to kill him, just like Jeannie. He grabs her by the throat, throws her down, and when Dr. Lauro tries to intervene, he pushes her against the wall as well. The soldiers intervene and take hold of the situation, and once Kaylee is on her feet, she orders everyone to be arrested, including Dr. Lauro, despite knowing that she is innocent. We then see Derek handing over military plans of moving Kyle Krieger to Dana, and she is so impressed by him that she ends up kissing him. Brent arrives and reprimands them for doing this at the door because it's risky, and Derek quickly leaves. Unfortunately, Fanny had been spying on them, and she managed to capture Dana's picture at Brent's house. We then see Kale interrogating everyone in the incident, and she is manipulating the facts to frame all of them as guilty. Private Schechter decides to reveal what he found in Gianni's car in order to save his job. We then see Ibrahim lose his cool after some soldiers bully the imam outside the Islamic Society of Wisconsin. When Dr. Lauro is interrogated, she reveals that she has figured out what Carl is doing. Carl was assigned to find a way to kill the Revivors, which is why she has captured all the spirits, and she is the one responsible for Jeannie's death. Kale, however, turns the story on its head, claims that Lauro has become emotionally attached to her patients, and that she freed Jordan and Rhodey, and likely helped Martha and Jeannie escape as well. This is when Lauro is stunned, because she knows that everyone is going to believe General Kale instead of her. We then see Dana and Em disguise themselves as clowns, enter the hospital, and eventually make their way towards Kyle through the vents. They climb to the roof and find Kyle being protected by soldiers, just like Derek's plans had shown. We then see Ibrahim being brought to the station by Brent with a lot of injuries. However, once they reach the station, they find all of the officers mobilizing because Dana and Martha have apparently been found. We then see Gianni in Derek's shed when Nikki and Cooper show up to visit him. Gianni talks with Cooper as Nikki confronts Derek. After noticing that he is using a burner phone, Nikki suspects that he is talking with Dana, and she ends up slapping him again. Cooper cries in the corner while Gianni bullies him and fills his head with poison. However, this is when officers show up outside the shed, and their confrontation is interrupted. We then see Rhodey biting out chunks of flesh from his left arm and spitting them out. Fanny King texting Kale that Dana and Em are where they want them to be, and the spirits finally realizing what Jordan is trying to tell them through her comic. The officers don't find Dana or Em in the shed, but they find 30 kilos of marijuana, and also some on Gianni, which means both Derek and Gianni are being arrested. However, after Cooper pleads with Nikki that he doesn't want to lose his father as well, Nikki stands up and claims that all of the marijuana belongs to her, while staring daggers into Derek's soul. Revival Volume 6, Forward, Issue number 40, Hiding Your Mistakes. Dana and Em wait patiently to get past the soldiers in a broom closet, while we see Private Schechter arriving at his new position at the Wau border. Non-revivers are constantly protesting to get out of town, and his new leader, Colonel Pataski, manages to drag him out of the crowd before he is mobbed. We then see Wayne Cypress being informed that Derek and Nikki have been arrested, and they both will be in custody until they figure out who is to blame for the contraband. This is when Cooper shows up, hugs his grandpa, and begs to know where his mother is, which drives daggers into Brent's heart. Reporters outside the Riverside Care Facility eagerly await the press conference while two soldiers order Rhodey to come with them. Rhodey realizes that this is General Kale hiding all her heinous crimes because the press is here, and he is right. Jordan and Dr. Lauro are already in solitary confinement. When the soldiers try to force Rhodey out of his cell, they discover that he has chewed off his left arm. Rhodey then uses it as a weapon to subdue both of them. He knows Dr. Lauro is on the other side, and he promises to come back to save her once he has done what needs to be done. Rhodey has fully given in to his mania now, and he now understands why he was a Jesus on a skateboard on his channel. Gianni and Big Tina are on a highway near Knowlton when out of nowhere, Tina punches Gianni and breaks his nose. She then carries him into the woods and beats him up with brass knuckles and reveals that this is payback for getting Derek arrested and was ordered by Jimmy the Viking. Rhodey, meanwhile, opens the door to the cell where all the ghosts are held, pisses on the salt at the entrance that is keeping them contained, and then offers them a hand to fulfill their mission. They hand Jordan's comic to him, and it's clear now that the ghosts are on their side. Dana and Em, meanwhile, sprint closer to Kyle's room at the next shift change, and this is when we see that the press conference has begun. General Kale is addressing all the reporters, and this is when she reveals her twisted plan to all of them. She has betrayed Fanny to hide her failure to capture the sisters. Kale paints the story where they were aided by Fanny to remain hidden for all these weeks. This is when Fanny gets a text from Kale that says, "Sorry," and she already knows what's about to happen. Though he is holding a sword against Em and Dana's throats, she turns around to find herself surrounded by soldiers while a news chopper from the air broadcasts everything to the world. Gianni and Big Tina continue to tussle, which ultimately ends with Gianni killing Tina by shooting her in the head. Everything is going according to plan for Kale. However, things quickly take a turn for the worse when soldiers possessed by the ghosts show up and begin firing at her. Just like the Revivors, they are unkillable, and when one of the bodies falls, they simply possess another. Kale crawls towards a gun, only to be confronted by Rhodey, who leads a whole group of possessed soldiers and ghosts. Revival Volume 6. Forward, issue number 41. Glowing Men. Dana, Em and Fanny are surrounded by soldiers who don't plan to arrest them, but kill them instead on orders of General Kale. They don't care whether Em is pregnant or not. But before they can fire, Fanny's daughter, Atlee, shows up and gasses all of the soldiers to incapacitate them. Em is stunned by the little kid's resolve, but Dana snaps her out of her daze and drags her to Kyle Krieger to find out who employed him. Gianni, meanwhile, manages to reach the border through the woods, and when he spots Schechter at the border, he comes up with a plan to add to the chaos. The massacre outside the Riverside Care Facility continues, and Dr. Lauro observes all of this from inside the facility. They all think that they're going to die, but Lauro tells them that they will wait for the right moment to escape into the woods. Rhodey, meanwhile, manages to find a camera that is still broadcasting and begins addressing the nation while revealing what Kale is doing in the facility. Before he can say more, Kale punches him and begins smashing his head again and again with the camera while claiming that he destroyed everything. Her delusions come to light in this outburst, and it's revealed that she thinks of the Revivors as abominations and that she was trying to save the world from them. This is when Lauro and the Revivors make their escape, and Rhodey stupidly reveals to Kayla that he has handed over all the discs and files that incriminate her to Dr. Lauro. This is when Kale picks up a rifle, takes aim, and shoots Dr. Lauro in the head. She drops dead instantly, and the Revivors fail to take the duffel bag containing all the evidence that lies there with her body. Rhodey is horrified by what just happened, and though he tries to kill Kale, her soldiers come to her rescue and shoot him until he stops moving. All the while this is happening, Kale maintains her delusion by reminding herself that she did this for her wife, her son, and their future. Dana and Em, meanwhile, discover that Kyle has been killed by someone, and this is when Dana notices that Kyle's doctor was none other than Jordan's mother, Carol Borchardt. Fanny and Atlee try to offer them help, but Dana and Em lash out at them because they got them into this mess in the first place. This is when they hear dozens of helicopters approaching the area, and it's clear that more forces have been sent in to handle the situation. At the border, the protests continue, and we see Desiree Fisher, Hammond's daughter, who blames the military for killing him, read the news about what happened at the Riverside Care Facility. The protest is on the verge of becoming violent, and this is when Gianni tips the scales by shooting Private Schechter in the neck. Desiree pulls out her own gun, thinking that the soldiers have begun shooting, and begins firing, and this is when Colonel Pataski gives his soldiers the order to retaliate. We then see Jamie Hattinger reporting all that has happened today as people around the town watch in horror. She then begins to report on the glowing men. However, this is when she is arrested by soldiers and the broadcast abruptly cuts off. Dana, Em, Fanny and Atlee escape to Patrick's car lot, where Fanny has hidden her vehicle. Dana and Em figure out that the revivers and the ghosts were carried away in the helicopters they saw earlier. But this is when Em realizes, through her connection with her spirit, that all of them are angry. Too angry. So angry, in fact, that the ghosts are pulling life from thin air, which is lowering the temperature. And this is when snow begins to fall once again at the start of summer. However, this is when Dana tells Em to look down because her abdomen is glowing. Revival, Volume 7. Stay just a little bit longer. Issue number 42, The Pursuit of Youth. Wau has been turned into a war zone. Soldiers shoot everyone on sight, and the ghosts possess anybody they can find to retaliate. Bodies lie everywhere, and firearms are the most prized commodity. A pregnant wife and husband make their way through the woods to try and escape the massacre for the sake of their child. When they find Lester Magic out for a jog, they ask him for help and a place to stay for the night, and Lester kindly invites them into their home. We then see Jordan's father regretting what he did to her, but her mother, Carol, thinks she did what was necessary because, according to her and her Christian values, Jordan was already dead. However, this is when Jordan shows up and pushes her down the stairs. She then reveals that she now remembers her red dress and New Year's Eve. Her father points a gun at Jordan but is unable to pull the trigger. He escapes through the basement door and demands help from one of the soldiers, but instead gets hit in the head because the soldier is possessed by one of the ghosts. This is when Jordan's mother shoots him in the back with a shotgun and then makes her escape. We then see General Kale handing over the area's control to General Hauser, who has been sent to handle the situation. Hauser calls her out for not being brutal enough with the citizens and reveals that they plan to kill every human in the area so that the ghosts have no one to possess. And this means that Janae and Jacob are in danger as well. Jackson and his biker gang, meanwhile, are outside the police station holding Sheriff Cypress hostage because they want all the weapons inside. This is a war, and they want to protect themselves. Wayne holds his ground, and we see that inside the police station, Ibrahim, Nikki and Brent are the only ones armed with weapons, while Bonnie and Cooper are huddled in a corner. This is when we see that Derek has been eyeing the gang from a nearby hill. The revivers are meanwhile shunned by their families, and this is revealed when Patrick's mother throws things at him and then throws him out of her house. The revivers then decide to band together, but the feeling that they are unwanted on Earth as well as in heaven is sinking in rapidly. We then see Carol Borchardt about to be ambushed by Rhodey's spirit when General Kale rescues her using slugs filled with salt. Their conversation reveals that Kale is running away to save her family, and this is when Carol demands to come with her in exchange for revealing how these souls were separated from their bodies. She knows how it's done and who did it, and Kale promises to help her, but in exchange, Carol will have to let Rhodey's spirit possess her. Jackson's gang, meanwhile, manages to apprehend Derek by evening, and they hold him hostage against Sheriff Cypress. If he doesn't hand over the weapons, they threaten to kill Derek. Meanwhile, Lester is attacked by the couple because they want to steal his estate and riches to ensure a better future for their child. However, this is when Dana shows up and orders the couple to take the truck and drive away before she is forced to shoot them. The couple leaves because they were opportunistic criminals, and this is when Dana reveals that she isn't here to save Lester. She orders him to hand over the crowbar because that is a murder weapon, and Lester used it to kill her sister, Martha. Revival, Volume 7. Stay just a little bit longer. Issue number 43. Floodgates. Rhodey wakes up from his drug-induced state, and we learn that he is in military custody. General Kale debriefs the other officials on revivers, how they work, their connection to the glowing men, and that they are the closest things to souls for religious people. Kale was tasked to find a way to weaponize this phenomenon, and she then shows them what happens to the revivers when they meet their soul. She lets Rhodey's spirit into his cell, and everyone watches him instantly combust. General Hauser is impressed by this, but this is not all. Kale brings in Carol Borchardt and reveals that they may be able to weaponize life itself. We then see peaceful citizens who don't want to fight the war gather in the Wau Daily Ledger office, where May's boss, Boggs, addresses them. However, they put up flyers for this, and this is how Desiree Fisher and her gang are able to find them. They threaten the citizens and claim that the city is not going to surrender. Derek, meanwhile, is led towards the police station by Jackson to exchange him for weapons. Wayne prepares everyone inside for the confrontation, hands a piece to Bonnie and orders Cooper to stay close to Nikki. Ibrahim tries to tell Wayne the truth about himself, but the sheriff cuts him off because that can wait for later. He has been saving his family ever since he got involved, and that is good enough for him. They are about to open the door, but when they hear Jackson's cries for help, they find that most of his gang has been cut to pieces by his daughter, Martha. Even Atlee is surprised by how ruthless M was. We then see Dana leading Lester into the woods while torturing him constantly. Lester tries to charm her, but it doesn't work on Dana because now she knows the truth. She smacks him across the face with the gun when he tries to protest, and then reveals that she found out that he murdered Martha with their father's crowbar when she learnt about Carol's involvement. Carol had been Lester's friend for years. He credited her in his latest book. She was the one who ordered 100 human teeth for Lester before 2nd of January, and she was the one who half-filled the coroner's report for Jesse Blackdeer and Martha, even before the murders were committed. Dana is crying, but the anger on her face is clear. She is going to murder Lester in the same spot he murdered her sister. We then see Derek reuniting with Nikki while Cooper introduces himself to Atlee. Jackson is locked behind bars, and Martha takes a breather because her baby is kicking. Fanny reveals that Martha is going to have a daughter because she has a knack for spotting extraordinary daughters. Lester tries to run away from Dana, but it's no use. When he reaches the river, he finds it full of blood and the banks riddled with dead wildlife. With tears in his eyes, Lester tells Dana that in an attempt to avoid death, he ended up damming the river, and now the only way to fix this river of blood before it infects all of the world is through Martha. Revival, Volume 7, Stay Just a Little Bit Longer, Issue number 44, A Father's Revenge. At 2:12 a.m, we see General Kale sending a chopper to secure the Silver Creek grist mill, but due to the severe weather conditions, it ends up crashing, and the dead pilot is found by Dana and Lester. Lester sees a gun nearby and, instead of attacking Dana, explains to her that he really feels sorry for all that he has done and that he wants to fix this. He did not know M was pregnant when she was sacrificed. He gave too much life and was awarded too much immortality. This chopper means that Kale knows the importance of the Silver Creek, and it is imperative that they conduct the ritual with M there before the military takes over it and uses it for its own gain. Dana sighs and continues walking towards the police station with him because she knows that they need to stop this spread of death, and for that, Lester needs to be alive. At the police station, Em and her father bond over their worry for Dana and how he wasn't able to protect her when she died. Atlee prays, and Cooper and she talk about cartoons before she sleeps. In downtown Wau, we see Jean and Jacob being led by Desiree's men to the temporary fort they have made at the mall. Desiree knows that they are General Kale's family, and that they will be a great bargaining chip when the time comes. Most of the residents of Wau are at the mall, and this is when Fanny asks M to kiss her to learn about her past. We see that Fanny was a criminal in Detroit when she was pregnant. They were involved in a gang war, but during her last attack, her entire squad was picked off silently, and then Fanny was stabbed in the stomach using a sword. The man who did it felt sorry for her, and so he nursed her back to health, and miraculously, her daughter Atlee didn't die in the incident. Fanny ever since has been trying to do good by God for saving his daughter when she saw what M was. She knew what she had to do. She had to protect her. It's the reason she didn't run away after the incident at the hospital. We then see Ramin confess to Wayne that he is a sleeper CIA agent and that his brother Omar is being held hostage by them. We then see Dana return to the police station with a restrained Lester Magic. However, when Wayne realizes that this means it was Lester who murdered Martha, he leaps at him and punches him in the face twice. Dana doesn't even have a chance to explain things to him, but by the time they stop him, it's already too late. All it took was 2 punches from an angry father to take Lester's supposedly immortal life, which started this entire ordeal. Revival, Volume 7, Stay Just a Little Bit Longer, Issue number 45, Saving the World. We then see what happened on the night of January 1st. Em was stranded on the bridge because her car had died again. She was on the call with Aaron, and it is implied that Em knew that Aaron was going to sacrifice Jordan Borchardt. Aaron was trying to convince her to come back to his place because an accident had just happened in the city, but this is when Lester ambushed her and hit her in the head with a crowbar like a maniac. This is the time Black Deer couldn't kill Em for the first time. She reminded her of his daughter. This is why Lester finished the job. And after Em fell into the river, he quickly ran back to Silver Creek because the path between body and soul was now clear. Em was revived and simply got back in her car and drove away at 1:18 a.m. on 2nd of January as though nothing happened. Em learns all this in the present day after resuscitating Lester outside the police station. She tells them all why they need to go to Silver Creek and how she died. And this is when Desiree's men learn of Silver Creek as well through the crashed helicopter. They also discover that the river is full of ghosts. However, before they can report back, a ghost possesses one of the men, and the two of them end up shooting each other. However, Desiree learns about Silver Creek over the radio, and this is when she wakes up Janny and Jacob. She takes them hostage and rounds up her men to attack and capture Silver Creek. At the police station, Dana rejects Derek and tells him that it's time she moved on, and Em reminds her father, while bandaging his fists, that something good came from the revival day. Dana and she grew closer thanks to it. Ibrahim stitches up Lester, and when Bonnie confronts him for his vile nature, Lester launches into a maniacal tirade where he promises that he will do anything to defeat death. Fanny then hugs her daughter, orders her to protect the people at the police station, and then breaks down, confessing that it was she who kept Atlee away from her family because she wanted to be completely redeemed before she got back with them. Atlee hugs her mother, saying that only God can judge them, and then confesses that she is the best mother in the world. Dana and Fanny bond over the fact that both their children see them as super mums, and this is when the two of them, along with Sheriff Wayne, and Ibrahim leave for Silver Creek. We then see that General Kale has turned all of the soldiers against Hauser by revealing that he plans to bomb the entire city today. So now, they're all following her to the fight in Silver Creek. As Em travels with her group, she is forced to take a break to pee, but she is so big that she ends up slipping and falling when she tries to squat. Em bursts out laughing, but seconds later, her screams attract Dana. She is being attacked by her ghost, but before it can enter her, Jordan consumes it. Em destroyed Jordan's soul, so it's only natural for Em to steal hers. Revival, Volume 7. Stay just a little bit longer. Issue number 46. Never let go. Reporters outside the border are now telling the world that the snow in Wau is an atmospheric anomaly, as is the river of blood that runs through it. There is no update on the people of Wau, and this is when we see that General Kale has captured Silver Creek and is attempting to carry out the ritual through Carol at a random location by sacrificing one of the soldiers. His soul manages to separate from his body, but instead it lunges back into the creek and kills itself. They then spot Em, Dana and their group near the grist mill, and Kale goes to confront them while warning Carol that if the ritual doesn't work the next time, she will sacrifice Carol herself. The nexus point of this ritual is called the Locus by Lester, and we see that Kale has killed dozens of Desiree's men in an attempt to secure the area. Jordan reveals that Kale wants to control this entire process and the Revivors when she is suddenly shot in the head by Desiree. They all realise that she is avenging her father, and Ibrahim tells her the truth that Holt killed her father to control the story, to spread hate, and if Desiree kills them, then she would be letting Holt win. She hits Ibrahim again and again, but something tells her he is telling the truth. This is when she is shot through the neck by Kale, and all of them run away while her men face off against the soldiers. Carol finds them and tries to beg Lester to side with General Kale, but he says that he is going to fix this because too many have died, and Carol is tackled by Jordan because she knows her mother is a liar. The soldiers and Kale kill all of Desiree's men mercilessly, but Desiree laughs because Kale has also murdered her family, just like all the people she was supposed to protect. Kale frantically removes her men's masks and finds Janay and Jacob with tape over their mouths, bleeding out. Kale vows revenge and to use this ritual as a way to bring back her son, and runs after Em and her group. Lester reveals that Grist Mill is the same location as Turi Krika on the banks of the Ganges. and that they need human teeth to complete the ritual. He then steps into the water and begins cutting himself as all of them are surrounded by all the ghosts that inhabit the woods. M promises to free them all and send them where they belong. Jordan lines the well in the mill with human teeth when the soldiers and Kale show up and begin firing at them. They need Lester, M and Kale to promise to let the others live if the two of them come with her. Instead, Wayne Cypress kills a few soldiers until he is killed by Kale. And though M wants revenge, Fanny steps in to do it on her behalf. M slowly lowers herself into the well as Fanny takes down the soldiers one by one with her sword expertly. Dana holds M's hand and lowers her into the water while promising that she will never let go, just like the times she held her hand during swimming lessons when they were kids. When M is in the water, she is surrounded by the spirits of dead wildlife and people. Revival, Volume 7, Stay Just a Little Bit Longer, Issue number 47. This is the end. Sheriff Wayne relives the night of the accident, only for her wife Patty to tell him that she can't let him live here. Wayne snaps back, and we learn that he is still alive with a bullet lodged in his head. Ramin takes care of him while Fanny fights Kale, and the soldiers take random shots to avoid hitting the general. Jordan tells Dana that the spirits are itching to escape and that M needs to hurry. She barely manages to contain M's spirit, and this is when we see M confronted by a blue spirit in the water. It's her daughter, and she is the bridge, she is the locus. Alive in death and dead while being alive, she has a foot stuck in either realm, and M reveals to her that she was going to name her after her mother, Patricia. Fanny continues to fight General Kale with her sword, as General tries to manipulate her by hanging the immortality of Atlee in front of her face. But Fanny believes in God, and in her eyes, only he has the right to grant immortality in heaven. Kale shoots Fanny in the shoulder, and Fanny tackles Kale into the water. Upon realizing what she will have to do, Fanny stabs herself as well as Kale with her sword to kill them both. The soldiers open fire upon realizing that the general is dead, but this is when the revivers show up to absorb the bullets and save Dana and the rest of them. M tries to get her daughter to exchange places with her, but Patricia refuses her mother's pleas, and so M shows her what life would have been if the two had lived together. After this gift, Patricia agrees to her mother's request. However, this is when Lester knocks Dana out with a log and steals Patricia's spirit. Because he knows that the path to immortality is absorbing the locus, he begins to absorb her spirit, and this is when M is forced to ask Dana to let her go. She needs to let M go, and though she thinks that she failed to be a good sister and mother, she is wrong, and Dana can prove herself wrong by looking after Patricia. Dana sobs and wails like a child while holding her sister close. When Dana finally accepts her sister's death, Patricia's spirit vanishes out of Lester's hands, and all the others enter their respective revivers. They all go up in flames, and as Carol reaches out for Jordan, her daughter forgives her in her dying moments. Lester falls to the ground as M's spirit enters her body, and she too passes away in Dana's arms. 2 years later, we see Patricia living with Dana and Cooper. She looks just like M, and Dana has now been promoted to the position of the town sheriff. We see that she and Ibrahim are living together, and they stay with Lester in his dying moments, who once again apologizes to Dana for putting her and her family through hell. Lester passes away. Wayne still lives, albeit in a wheelchair, and as the family goes to the graveyard, we see Cooper in a jacket similar to the one his aunt wore. He says hi to Atlee, who is here visiting her mother's grave along with her grandparents. In the epilogue, we see Nithya buying a property that is close to a nearby creek. She holds Aaron's book, Banks of the Broken Creek, close to her chest, and it is implied that she will be attempting the ritual again.